Hello and welcome to day 2 of the inaugural Zwift Games. I'm Jez Cox.
And I'm Matt Stevens.
And for the next 2.5 hours, you're going to be treated to another day of action from the biggest festival of cycling ever held on Zwift.
Absolutely. The Zwift Games are comprised of a series of community events that will be running throughout March that anyone can take part in.
And then at the weekends, it's time for the Elite Championships as our top Zwifters take to the same courses as the community. So you also can join us in the studio and watch all the fun.
And for the first time ever for a championships, we've had an open entry process and any top-level Zwifter could enter. And as a result, this is the widest and the most stacked elite field that we've ever seen. Across the men's and women's races, over 300 athletes from 33 nations will be going head-to-head for the next 3 weeks to truly determine who the best Zwifters in the world are.
It's going to be great, Matt.
It is.
Let's get into what's happening over the next 3 whole weeks, and we'll run through them course by course. First of all, let's start as we did with the men yesterday. The women tonight, of course, taking on exactly the same course. It's Loop de Loop, this new circuit that was broken in last night for the men. It's the longest of the 3 sprint races this evening, just under 25 kilometres, 2 laps as well.
And next up on the menu, following a short break, is this. It is the Jurassic Coast, a course, it's point to point, as you can see, never been used before. 19.5 Ks with the climbing weighted at the start.
Appropriately, we're finishing where last year's UCI World Zwifting Championships, the Esports Championship, took place, of course, on that 5-lap course in the Glasgow Crit Circuit. Short, but that Wahoo Kickr is going to be a beast every single time up it, isn't it?
Indeed. Well, looking forward to next week, we have the Epic Championships, and look at that course. It is absolutely epic. 1 singular lap, but look at the distance. 81.5 Ks, just under 900 metres of elevation.
It's going to be a long day out. Then we have an absolutely classic Zwift finale because we're finishing on the Road to Sky climb on the Alpe d'Huez all the way up, and that will crown our final champions.
Indeed. Well, look at the prizes that are on offer as well. This is spectacular. So, first prize for every single one of the 3 individual championships for the men and the women, $7,000 and a gold Concept Z1 bike, as you can see on the right hand side. And second and third place get in turn $5,000 and $3,000 apiece. It's a lot of money up for grabs.
Real money, not virtual money either, real money. And I love that Z1 bike, Matt. First place overall though, so bearing in mind that's even not disregarding the individual rounds, $10,000 to the first place overall, and the gold Concept Z1 bike, and this is what I really want to get my hands on, one of these gold Wahoo Kickr bikes, the ultimate machine for all your Zwift racing, Zwift training, but it has the iconic difference in that it is painted gold, and you can only get it by winning the Zwift Games.
There's only one way you can get your hands on one of those, Jez. It's a winning mate, I'm afraid. There's only 2 in the world, but they are absolutely magnificent, aren't they?
Beautiful.
Very nice.
Beautiful. Right, now let's explain how the scoring works. Based on the placings from the Sprint Championships, racers will get points from 100 to 1, so first to 100th place, towards the Wahoo Overall Championship. And then to help you keep track of who's currently on top of this leaderboard, there will be a golden leader's jersey during the races 2 and 3 to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, definitely. Now, next weekend we move on to the Epic Championships. There's a look at the jersey. I'll tell you, that's the ride-on jersey, should I say. But yeah, next weekend, as we've touched on already, we move on to the Epic Championships. And it is a beast, 81 kilometres. You'll definitely want to tune into this one with the men's at 6 p.m. UTC next Saturday and the women's at the very same time on the Sunday. The riders would take on another new course, around 2 hours of epic racing, and the top 100 will again earn points towards the Wahoo Overall Championships.
Now the final weekend is definitely a fitting climax, Matt, with the climb up the Alpe d'Huez to crown Zwift's champion climbers, as well as finding out, of course, who's going to emerge as the winners of the Wahoo Overall Championships. We will be in the studio following all of these different battles playing out on the upper slopes as they climb towards the final finish line of the tournament.
Indeed, and you can check out all of the information about the Zwift Games Elite Championships format at, write this down, zwiftgames.link/race guide. That's zwiftgames.link/race guide. That is on screen as well, and the link below is also in the YouTube event description of this show too.
Now, we've seen what the overall championships is about. Let's look a bit deeper into the sprint racing championships this evening, these 3 races, and the first route particularly in a bit more detail. As I said, it's the loop-de-loop course. It's the longest of the 3. They get ever so slightly shorter through these 3 races this evening. And it starts off fairly gradually as well. Going through the first sprint point, picking up that first power-up, that's the draft power-up, and then heading out to the King of the Mountains climb, the KOM, the Zwift KOM climb off to the right-hand side of the course before going around the whole thing again. Deployment of those draft power-ups absolutely crucial if riders are to conserve their energy and save it for that long, it's from about here, Matt, that long downhill run into the finish.
Yeah, it's about 2 Ks, isn't it? Sort of 800 metres of that downhill. So the King of the Mountains point really, really key, but it's how the riders ride the descent that we noticed yesterday. So I'm sure a lot of the women would have watched the way the men race it, because that quite clearly is the key point in the race. And it did find a lot of riders out yesterday. So yeah, fascinating to watch. Yep, that climb in particular is a real testy one, and we also need to remember there's 3 races here, so riders who want to progress, they want to be in that top 30 to get through, will be saving themselves as best they can, I think. Now, talking of those riders, our start list is a who's who of Zwift cycling talent. We've got virtual and real life national champions, Olympic esports champions, Zwift Grand Prix winners, real life pros, and Paralympic medalists. Indeed. It was hard narrowing it down. It was very hard, in fact, narrowing it down to just 5, as you'd expect. But regardless of that, let's have a look at the riders to watch that we picked in this race. Kick things off, Lou. Not Lou. Jez. We're kicking
She's not
off
talking.
With Lou. Sorry, Lou.
She's looking at us, but she's not talking. I've been called many things, Matt, but never Lou. Anyway, Lou Bates is, well, for those of you who watched the Zwift Grand Prix, a really obvious pick as well, because she was so consistent in that. Her power numbers as well reveal exactly why. Look at that peak power. In actual fact, looking at this, that's very interesting. I think it's how she's doing it. Ever so slightly less, the 15-second power, than the other riders on the screen, but boy does she use it wisely.
Indeed, with Sandrine Etienne, you can see very good 15 seconds power. In fact, yeah, second best out of all of our 5 favourites here. Favourite Zwift race, the World Championships 2023, unsurprisingly. Who would play you in a movie? Something I've not heard of before, but Leah Seydoux. I think I better look her up.
Oh, I know exactly who she is. I don't really, Matt, I'm just saying that.
Okay.
Gabby Guerrera is a really good pick. Those of you who are with us for coverage of the Zwift Grand Prix will remember just how poignant she was whenever the road pointed up. It's also worth pointing out, when you disclose this, she is the other half, some would say better half, of Nathan Guerrera, our expert, who's going to be on screen as well. And normally, Gabby is quite close to him while he's giving us his punditry as well. So we might see if we can tease an inside knowledge of what's going on with Gabby. She will be a good rider to watch.
Yeah, and she's on good form at the moment, coming out of the Zwift Grand Prix with good legs. And next up, we have from Sweden, Mika Söderström. There's the stats, 12.8 watts per kilo for 15 seconds, a 1 minute power of 8.7, 5 minutes at 5.8, and an exceptionally respectable 20 minutes power at 4.9. So there's all the stats. Her riding style, apparently, according to her, is calculating, open-minded and gutsy, and that is what you're going to need. I like the open-minded bit here because this is quite a disruptive format again, especially with the new pack dynamics coming into play.
She's a great sprinter as well, Söderström as well. But the highest 15-second power in there is held by Liz Van Houweling as well, the American rider who rides for the Next Esports team, and her numbers are very impressive on there as well. The 1 minute power also, I think, as I look across, yes, best, right up there with Lou Bates, but still the best as well. So the numbers is one thing. The ability to measure it out and use it in the right way in each of these races will be the fascinating thing as well. She says she favours short, punchy scratch races. Well, that is what tonight is all about.
This is it.
Right.
There you go. Indeed. Well, you'll also see the full rider list, start list, at the bottom of the screen at the start of each race. That'll be scrolling along the bottom just so you can familiarise yourself with the riders in the event today.
So we've seen the route and the riders from our humble perspective, but let's hear from Lou Bates herself. She was the pick at the beginning there, wasn't she? She got to chat with Dave Towell about the Zwift Games and the upcoming sprint race today.
Heading to Nottingham, England, checking in with Lou Bates. Lou, a fantastic season brings us into the Zwift Games. Welcome. It's great to see you smiling.
Oh, thanks, Dave. It is great to be here.
let's talk about the courses. What do you think going into it?
I think the format just gives everyone out there, a chance to show their stuff. There are going to be some people who are really targeting, maybe one round over all the others. There are going to be some people who are going for all three. And I think, that kind of variety and that kind of opportunity, that is there for everyone to show their stuff. I think that's what's going to make this games, super special.
The People's Champion, representing the community in the Zwift Games. Is that something that resonates with you?
It is actually, because I am on a lot of community rides. I am part of a number of clubs. I just love that aspect of Zwift. That is what drew me to it, and that's what keeps me coming.
Let's just jump right in and talk about the Sprint Championship. Let's talk about the routes. What do you think?
They're interesting. I like them. They're not short, I think. It was my first impression. I think although it's named as the Sprint Championships, by the time the riders get to that third round, there is going to be a significant amount of fatigue in the field. And I think it may come down to not necessarily who has the most power or who has the best sprint, but actually what riders are durable, what riders can actually keep that power.
Give me some of your best tips for folks who want to be competitive in the Zwift Games.
If you're worried about racing, I would say just go and do it. I think sometimes people are scared to actually just even go on the start line. And I would say that once you're there and once the banner drops, you'll forget all of those nerves and you'll just get straight in there. And the Zwift community is amazing, and you will find the support on that race course amazing. So I would say, if you're a D rider, if you have only just joined Zwift, just get in and have some fun with it, and don't worry about how you do. Don't worry if you're last or first or whatever. It really doesn't matter. Just get stuck into the atmosphere. Just know that you're actually part of something that's really special, and embrace it.
We are locked and loaded. It's time for the quick fire round. Lou Bates, I hope you're ready, because they're coming in hot. Let's start with your favorite power-up.
Aero, all the way.
Tron bike lighting color.
Yellow.
Favorite Zwift racing world.
Scotland.
You've been elected the mayor of Watopia. Congratulations. What's your first decree?
Pave the jungle.
The environmentalists will be up in arms. You get to take an animal with you. What's it going to be, Lou?
It's going to be a dog in the front of my bike in a basket.
It was a real honor and pleasure having a chance to chat with you, Lou Bates. Good luck in the Zwift Games.
Oh, thanks so much, Dave, and good luck to everyone racing the Zwift Games in the next few weeks.
Thank you for that, Dave. The People's Champion. Of course, to become the People's Champion, first she needs to be the champion, and she is well placed to do that. I'm not sure about paving the jungle, though, Matt. We can't be having that, can we?
Slightly controversial there from Lou Bates, but she is a very disruptive rider with some disruptive views.
Yep.
Right, now, throughout the Zwift Games, we're going to be having some very special guests with us to help forensically dissect the action. Nathan Guerra will be our rider and race specialist with us for all of the races over the next coming weeks. And alongside him for today, for the women's sprint, we've got Carla Williams. Hello, Carla. Carla is the co-founder and director sportif of the Ionian race teams, one of the best race teams out there. Strong, tactically sharp, entertaining too. And she also runs one of the biggest women's racing events on Zwift, the Tour de Boudica.
Nathan, Carla,
thanks
hiya.
a lot. Yeah, we're here. We're here. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Jez and Matt. Stage one, loop to loop. We're going to take a look at the course here. It's awesome to have Carla with us and taking a chat about what is coming up at us. Carla, one thing I definitely want to talk about a little bit here is that this is familiar parts of Watopia, right? We have the Essies, we have the hilly KO, Queen of the Mountain. But this is a little bit different with Loop to Loop. Zwift have thrown a little bit of a curveball at the riders a little bit here with stage one, as they're going to be taking on these sections of course in succession. Like really, really quickly, you hit the Essies, then you hit that Essies again, actually, then the hilly Queen of the Mountain, then right back into it. So this is a really difficult course with how quickly it comes at the riders over and over again, isn't it, Carla?
That's right. Yes, right. I think these route provides opportunities for riders to have a good sprint in a 1 minute power to play it as best as they can.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true, is that the 1 minute power as well as the sprint is really what it's going to be about. And we saw that actually yesterday. We thought perhaps that some of the riders that were more of the pure sprinters might not be able to hang on through the attrition. And although it is going to be a race of attrition, I think you're right that because it leans toward that 1 minute power and that 15-second power, a lot of the riders are going to be able to hang on all the way to the end. So are there any riders, when it comes to this specific course, that you've picked out that kind of like come to the top of your mind that it may be favoring? Maybe some of the riders, I think we chatted a little bit pre-production, some of the riders that were on our pick list were there, but I think you had a couple others you were talking about.
Yes, I do have a list of riders to watch on this specifically. I think Elise Gallegos, Mika Soderstrom, Leonie Harper, Lou Bates, of course, Mina Koistinen and Catherine Fura. I think they will be brilliant to watch and see what they come up with, especially on the Watopia one.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Now, yesterday, what comes to my mind right away when you see a rider like Elise Gallegos, a couple of those other riders that were in there, the reality of trying to get away. I mean, she comes from triathlete world, Gallegos, and she's been working on her sprint, but you know, one of these riders like this, I think, is going to be more comfortable maybe trying to get away. What do you think about that? That there may be riders that might not be comfortable with that crazy downhill. That's one section we haven't really talked about, the finish line. I mean, the reality of coming over the top of that Queen of the Mountain, then maybe getting a little bit of a break like we saw with Vidar Mail. After seeing that succeed yesterday, do you think some of the ladies are getting some encouragement about that? Because they're like, wow, that might be my only chance amongst a huge pack of riders in such a high-speed sprint to actually get the win. You think we might see some risks taken there?
I think we'll see some ladies going down and trying to get that very big gap so they're able to hang on to the finish line.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right there. That's a great call, actually. And I do think that they are going to try and make a break over the top. Well, this is going to be some fun racing to get into. Really excited for this, and good to have you here with us for Ione and Carlo. Let's go back to the studio with Jez and Matt.
Thank you both very much. Now, just quickly before we start, our team of hosts and analysts have made our own predictions for the Wahoo overall. You'll be pleased to know it's not just Matt and I here with you all the time. No. We've got a rolling cast of experts, both coming in within the studio, but also joining us for remote commentary as well, which is going to be really exciting. Some of them are listed here, though, Matt. Yeah,
we'll be tracking how this goes each week as we indulge in some healthy competition amongst ourselves. But, well, first off, Jez, let's get it right this time. You have picked Lou Bates. Why?
Yes. Well, mainly from her performances in the Zwift Grand Prix over the winter. So consistent, but far more importantly, she was the best sprinter, Matt. Whenever it came down to a sprint, not only was she out sprinting people on the hills, on the flat, she was dropping them.
Indeed. Well, Nathan, as we talked about before, one of the pre-race favourites is also Nathan's favourite, Gabby Guerra as well. And as we've already talked about, she's been on great form. And I think it was this season of the Zwift Grand Prix. And that was really her breakthrough set of races, especially towards the back end on the hilly courses. And then we've got John Mould has gone for Sandrine Etienne.
Yep, John Mould, the Welshman, is going to be joining us as well in the studio later in the next few weeks as well. So we look forward to that. Sandrine Etienne, of course, a winner on the Alpe d'Huez in the Zwift Grand Prix as well. Danny Rowe is going to be joining us here in the studio in the next couple of weeks too. She has gone for Liz Van Houweling, the American rider who we've already previewed. Matt?
I've gone for Kristen Kulczynski, freshly minted American esports champion, top 10 in the world. Again, is such an aggressive, tenacious rider. All of these courses I think are going to suit her, and it's a consistency that should shine through.
Finally, Hannah Walker, who's going to be on air with us in just a moment, giving us some commentary, has gone for Vicky Whitelaw, the vastly experienced in real life and esports racer. So much pedigree to draw upon. Now, there's just one more thing. I know I keep saying this, but there really is just one more thing before we get going with the racing. If you want to give a ride on to support the riders around you, just open up your companion app and search for the rider you want.
Yeah, we're going to go with Holly Bergin, who runs her own Zwift podcast, which is called Utopian Weekly. Surely that deserves a ride on, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, and you can even follow her and favourite her as well, and go and check out that podcast on Spotify while you're at it. Good luck today, Holly.
Yeah, and the racer who received the most ride-ons during race number 1, remember it's only race number 1, and there will be a 5-minute countdown, there'll be a cut-off point 2, will wear next week our new blue ride-on jersey. It looks absolutely wonderful. Big thumbs up on the back, so please do get involved. You can get involved throughout all the racing, but they count towards that jersey in the first race only.
Matt, I'm just hearing in my ear that we are ready to go to live racing. Here we go. Let's get the whole Zwift Games underway for these elite women. We are starting with 60 riders. You need to note, actually, right at the very beginning, we have 30 riders down this evening due to the spread of illness throughout our peloton, which is a real shame. And for those of you who are watching, get well soon. We want you back in the Zwift Games peloton. You can see already the start list scrolling through beneath them. As we watch 60 riders roll out, let me remind you, only 30 from this race will go through. Now that gives me a great chance to bring in Hannah Walker. Hey Hannah.
Good evening, Jez. I'm very much looking forward to this, the race one of the Zwift Games for the women's peloton here in the Sprint Championship. And you were just mentioning there that several riders are unfortunately out of the first round in this sprint competition due to illness. But it does mean that we've got now a 50-50 chance for riders to make it through to that second race on the Jurassic Coast. So it's going to be intriguing. I think it's going to be tactically very, very difficult, but physically it's going to be demanding.
Yes, I think Hannah, it'd be interesting because I'm presuming the vast majority of these riders will have heard that the field side has been reduced. As we noticed in the men's racing yesterday, kind of once you're in the middle of this pack, we're looking down, I think on Mika Söderström there, the Movistar rider right in the middle. It's kind of easier, I presume, Hannah, and you'll know better than me, to draft in amongst all that big group and spot when you're getting near the back. It's when the pack gets that much smaller. We're reducing it down to 30 after this race, and then we're taking it down to 10 for the final race. But they'll already know, I suspect, that there are around 30 riders missing.
Absolutely, Jez. And I think for riders at this point in the race, it's conserving and reserving as much energy as possible and not using energy where you don't necessarily need to. And so for these riders, it's all about being smart. It's about being tactically very sharp and astute as to where you use those efforts and really using it at concerted points, knowing that there's 30 riders that go through to race 2. I think for some of these riders, it's just about safely making it through to the next round and tipping it off that way. And then once you get to race 3, you know, it's all guns blazing and it's all out for the victory.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see, Hannah. I'm sure you'll have seen the men's racing yesterday. Which of the riders are willing to take a risk? We're watching Emma Belforth here going off the front, just starting to raise the tempo as well. And she's not being allowed to go clear just yet, but let's watch this. But we had yesterday, in the first 2 races, individuals who stuck their neck out and went well clear, getting in excess of 30 seconds of lead over the peloton. One opportunity in Nicolas Severa it worked for, but Hussein Salebi in that second race, in the Jurassic Coast race, got swallowed up before the finish and then didn't get through into the final. Sorry, that's the wrong way around. He did get through into the final, Salebi. It was Severa who didn't make it. So we've seen yesterday that actually being bold, if you haven't quite got it to hang on, can really bite you in the bottom, so to speak.
It can, Jez, it can, but it certainly it can. But I think also it can pay off as well. And I think for the moment, trying to make a breakaway really early on, perhaps there isn't quite that almost not fatigue in the legs, but you know everyone's already sort of reaching towards their top part of their heart rate, and they're really starting to feel the race in the legs already. And so I think for some riders, you know, it's being patient too before deciding, well, where and when do I want to try and make that breakaway. And I think, well, if I was a climber, I'd be looking at the two climbs here up to the Zwift QOM and thinking, right, well, we want to try and get rid of some of the faster riders within this peloton. We don't want to be taking them to the finish. We also want to make sure that we're giving them a hard time, and so we're putting some fatigue into their legs too.
It'd be interesting because that descent off the back of that QOM climb is long and it takes us all the way to the finish as well. So we noticed yesterday quite a lot of riders hanging on to their draft power up and using it on that long run into the finish, so we'll watch out for that. By the way, for everyone at home, it's lovely to see your ride-ons raining down on the riders as they go. Don't forget, this is the only race where your ride-ons will count towards that jersey that will be worn next week, so keep them coming. Pick out your favourite riders as you look at them. We're looking at Lucinda Blanco here. the Spanish rider. She's got a very bright-looking ride setup. It's one of the things we love, don't we, Hannah? Looking into the in real-life world that these riders are existing in while they're tapping it away on our virtual screen.
Oh, it certainly is, isn't it? It certainly is. And I think as we've seen over the last 5, 6, 7 years, all the different setups that riders have, their Zwift pain caves. And I think we've had some real comedy ones. We've seen riders racing in their bathrooms, all over the exceptional garages.
Yes, well, right. You might be wondering what data Hannah and I are looking at here to give us an insight into what the riders are doing. Of course, on your main screen, you've got the normal Zwift data screen down the right-hand side. But if you're really geeky and you want more, which I know lots of you are, just use the link that's at the bottom of the screen right now, zwiftgames.link/race dashboard, and you can find that link in the notes below this video as well, and in the comments as well. So go looking for it. Maybe do a second screening so you can see who's launching, because we saw some brilliant launched attacks from behind working their way through the peloton yesterday, and you can have a look out for them too. This would be a great opportunity, Hannah, to bring in Nathan and Carla. Nathan, just before I ask you a question, I notice you've got your coat on. Is it a little bit cold in there?
It's a little cold. I mean, it's actually, what's interesting is that as I saw the weather, usually around this time of year, you're like, oh, could it please be getting warmer? And then when I saw it was going to be in American dollars, 65 degrees, 70 degrees, I was like, dang it, we can't open the windows. We have to turn the AC on for the race. But but it is cold in here. I would like it a little colder for Gabriella. But the racing that we're seeing right now, I think it's pretty calm up to this point. Carla, I think everyone is really looking forward to that Queen of the Mountain rather than any real attacks early on at this point. I also think a lot of them just collected their first power-up. They get 2 of these power-ups, 2 draft power-ups. It's going to be interesting to see how they deploy those. Where do you think the riders might be thinking about deploying those power-ups, Carla?
I think they will try to deploy it on the downhill from the Quam, only because the power-up is more efficient if you are traveling at high speed rather than putting it out when you are climbing, when you can be around 16 kilometers an hour or even less. So I think probably the downhill would be the best place to press it.
Yeah, I think you're right there. We did see that as far as like tactically yesterday. And this was something that Matt Stevens had talked about too yesterday, about using that power-up, the drafting power-up, as an offensive power-up necessarily. And then at the end of the day, Kaminsky took the win yesterday, using it as an offensive power-up, kind of off the back and coming on through. So a lot of these riders might be thinking about that, I would think, Carla, on the downhill section to get a lot of roll-through speed on the first lap as well as on the second lap, coming through as much as they possibly can. That's a really good call-out. Now, as they're coming through the essays here, I mean, it really does look like things are pretty calm. What do you think's going through the riders' minds at this point? Is it just all about the Queen of the Mountain?
I'm really not sure. I'm just waiting for the explosion, to be honest. But I think we'll see this on the second lap. I think everybody seems to be very calm. Yeah, I just can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah, the riding is pretty chill at this point. It looks like a lot of the riders here just looking forward to that Queen of the Mountain. It looks like a lot of jostling for position. I do see the heart rates are pretty high here, though, even though it has been calm. Perhaps the pace is just steadily high as well. I mean, I'm seeing riders that are pretty high-level athletes already up into threshold heart rates. So obviously the pace here amongst the group fighting for position. So it may look calm to us because the pack's all together, but I think it's definitely the pace is just high and the heart rates, the jitters are there. Everybody's following wheels. Nobody wants to see anything go. Let's go on back to Jez and Hannah for some more race commentary.
Thank you, both of you. Kind of appropriately, Hannah, we're looking at Sophie Wright right now, who's broken the front a few times rolling through. And this S's here, Hannah, is a nice prelude to the Jurassic Coast opening as well, where it's constantly up and down. And we've already seen a couple of occasions where riders have used their draft power up already, and just by doing so have rolled straight through this relatively small pack now and back out the front as well. So kind of feathering that power and getting it right is such a Zwift thing that you've told me about many times before, Hannah, of course, while we've been covering other races together. It's a real art, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly is, Jez. It is a real art, and you really need to finesse that. And we see some of the most experienced Zwifters just almost make it look easy, being able to maneuver themselves through the bunch, and the way in which they're able to save so much energy. And we were just getting a look at Sophie Wright just then, who is racing with the World Tour team of Phoenix de Koning. She's on terrific form. Only a couple of weeks ago in the UAE Tour, she was in that breakaway on the final stage. It almost went all the way to the end, caught in the final couple of kilometers. And I'm really intrigued to see how Sophie Wright can do, because she also comes from a mountain biking background, and so she's got quite a snappy kick when, you know, she's not one to be underestimated, but of course she's got that endurance. And when we see 3 races here, she's got that ability to be able to recover, and that accumulation of fatigue, I think it's going to really suit her, these short, sharp races. And I know Carla was saying, Lou Bates, was saying earlier on that they're quite long races, and they are when you think about a sprint. But I do think that for those riders who have got a lot of endurance in their in the tank, it's really going to suit them.
Yeah, there is definitely a lot of riders keeping their powder very dry. In fact, some of our best Zwifters in here keeping their powder bone dry. They've taken in the bottom left-hand loop. As we've noticed, they've just gone back through the lap arch and picked up, for those of them that have used their power-up, they've picked up their first power-up, I should say, their draft power-up. And 1 or 2 riders already deploying them in there as well, maybe just to recover a little bit better on the wheels before we get to that Zwift QOM. And that's where we're expecting the action to happen. If it doesn't, then I don't know where it's going to happen. Unless, Hannah, I guess, they're waiting for the second lap. This is the 2-lap race, of course. So
I would expect so. I would expect so, Jess. I would expect that it's going to be the second time up the climb where we'll really see the fireworks. And don't discount any moves trying to go on the first climb and the first time up the climb, but it could just be almost that softening up, just testing the legs, testing your opponents that are around you. But I really think that second time up the climb is where it could be, where the riders can make the difference.
Once again, Matt and I were talking about this yesterday, Hannah. If we look at the race position of the left-hand side, look how multinational that is. I think it's the first time I'd really thought about it, that the Zwift platform, and whether it's a community race or an elite race, when you look at it, the multinational makeup is far, far diverse and wider spread than any professional peloton in real life, which is brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic, isn't it? And I think that's the beauty of it. It doesn't matter which time zone you're on. You can all be racing here in the Zwift Games. And we just saw then Lam Kong, who raced in the Olympic Esports event in Singapore last year. She was the Hong Kong road race champion. And this woman here, the French woman Sandrine Etienne, she is a force to be reckoned with, because she showed how strong she was in the Zwift Grand Prix on the Alpe d'Huez, and I think within the hexagon setup, they pack a punch.
My goodness, do they? And it's actually Sandrine Etienne who started this little move, knocking out nearly or just over 8 watts per kilogram there. She was followed by Emma Belforth, who now leads the Swedish rider on the blue bike, picked out in our shot here right now. Etienne just tracking her, but not quite within ideal drafting position either. But it was Etienne who kicked this off, and we recognise her, Hannah, don't we, as one of the very, very best climbers in the field. We've got Emma Belforth there in shot as well, and you can see just how hard she's working on this QOM climb.
I think that was quite smart from Etienne there, where she didn't panic to try and close the gap to Belforth immediately. It was keeping well within herself, not making any big spikes in her power. She got herself onto the wheel there, and you can see already the first time up this QOM, the damage that has been done. We've got, when you look down at this bird's eye shot, Jez, we're looking at around 15, 16 riders left, a couple more just getting back on. And this is a good opportunity now for those who have been distanced to try and get back on. And those who are there in that group, and you already see the power-ups, the draft power-ups start to be deployed, a good opportunity for some recovery if you're there in that move.
There were 19 riders went over the top of that together, and we're just watching ones and twos some of them using their draft power up just to wind their way back in. That is the slight problem, is this descent is long. It's a slightly jagged descent as well, but it's a long one, a real opportunity to regroup. So the likes of Sandrine Etienne, I presume, Hannah, that's why she's now on the front pressing the pace, because once you've got that separation, you need to keep going. Otherwise the riders behind are just going to knock it up a couple more watts per kilogram, and before you know it, they're back on again.
I think if you're feeling good and you really want to make sure that those riders, and you can see there's a large group who is trying to come back. For Etienne, if she can just keep the pace on at the front, it makes it so much more difficult for those who are trying to come back on. They're using more energy, they're using more of their resources that they'll need crucially in that finale, or even just to get themselves back in the race. As we see a little bit of a change, there's two riders in the orange jerseys from Hexagon, and now this is an attack going off the front here.
Yeah, Merle Bruni coming from a long way back, right through the group, using the draft as she comes through it as well. She just slingshot off the front, but she's not getting her own way though. Vicky Whitelaw, Sandrine Etienne again in that orange jersey of Hexagon, just closing things down. She's, dare I say it, Hannah, using quite a lot of energy at the moment, Etienne, on or off the front of this group. But that is not the 60 riders we started with. Let me remind people watching, only 30 go through to that second race. But there is that danger, isn't there, that someone who's as effervescent and keen as Sandrine Etienne is, that she might use a bit too much too soon, maybe?
I think sometimes that's the, and I say problem, sometimes when you've got really good form, you feel so good, you've got the legs to use, and so you end up using more energy than actually you would like to. Sometimes when you don't quite have the legs, you race much more conservatively, you're very reserved, you're really thinking about where are you making those attacks or those accelerations. But I think for Etienne, you know, importantly, she's keeping herself up towards the front, and even if she's on the front, Jez, using that energy, she's certainly making it difficult for those riders who were trying to get back on before. And you just see Kristen Kulczynski, the American rider who's just highlighted, sitting nicely in the pack, and she's playing a smart race here because we haven't seen her once towards the front here. That's the first time, and she's just using the riders around her to save as much as possible.
Yeah, notably as well, she's seated, which is quite rare for Kristen Kulczynski, and that demonstrates, I guess, just how steadily, I'm not saying easily, but steadily she's going. We've just noticed in the studio here that there are 34 riders in that leading group, so that means if they go to finish as they are, only 4 of them won't progress to the second race. It's a rather nice opportunity for someone who's a strong sprinter just to hold it, try and keep it together. Of course, as we can see, there are some in there that don't want to do that. One of them in shot, Emily Nyquist as well, the American rider, now absorbed back in, and now it's Anna Svardström of the Swedish Zwifters just rolling to the front as they're coming back down towards sea level again to go back through the lap arch. Some of them using their draft power-ups now, of course, because they're about to lose them and pick up another one for lap 2. Lap 1, very nearly complete, Hannah.
It certainly is, it certainly is. And I think this is a good opportunity for riders, Jez, to just reconfigure themselves, just have a moment of reset. As we see the Belgian Eleanor Wiseman, and you can see this has not been an easy race. We heard from Nathan before of it might look easy because it's all together, but certainly with the pace, and you take a look at the heart rate there into threshold, 174 beats per minute. They're not hanging around, as we see Ike, the Finnish rider towards the front, Jenny Ike there.
I just want to bring Nathan and Carla back in here, if I can, as we go through the line with 1 lap to go. Nathan, Carla, as we kind of thought it might be, it's been a very cautious first lap, but we have seen, some 15, 20 riders off the back now, and quite a long way down, something like 13, 14 seconds behind. A sort of selection has happened already. If this was 30 riders, we could shut this down, couldn't we, and just leave it like that? What do you think, Nathan?
Yeah, there's some big sprinters as well that haven't found themselves off the back. And so what I noticed as well was that the pace actually over the top, because it was so calm up front. Yesterday, the men's race, we saw a lot of attacks early on. We saw a lot of movement early on that kept the pace kind of like insane, actually, going into that first climb, where the watts per kilogram were about 6 to 7, maybe 8. women hit the bottom of that climb, 9 watts per kilogram I saw from a lot of them for quite a long period of time. So big sprinters then perhaps not able to hold that 2 minute all the way through where they were into those orange numbers for quite a long time. I'm seeing Megan Rathwell off the back. I'm seeing Bassoni off the back. Maria Marb. I mean, these are names that can definitely sprint, but they're only 5 seconds back. There's a big chase actually being made right now of some real names that probably had high hopes coming in. Carla, I mean, this is a situation where now there's decisions to be made in that front group as to whether or not you want to take the risk of allowing anyone to get back in this group, isn't it?
That's right, and it looks like the chasing group is really pushing the pace. I don't know. I think probably potentially they can get back. I think they go back now. You can see that coming back from the back. I think the ladies will have to really think through how they're going to tackle the quam just to secure those 30 spots.
Yeah, I think that's really what it's going to be all about. Riders are going to think, well, that happened the first lap. Of course it's going to happen the second lap, right? But now, as you can see, just as the riders get on, we saw Belfort again making a move off the front. Etienne is there as well. Obviously, there's a couple of riders here that do not want that situation, but that's a lot to risk, I would think. Carla, I mean, there's a lot of risk-reward payoffs here. Like, do you continue to press on and make that risk and all of that energy right now, thinking, well, we just need to make sure it's only 30 on the front? I mean, that seems like a pretty high gamble, doesn't it?
It is, but something that I've learned by seeing these ladies racing on the Zwift Grand Prix and Zwift Racing League is that they are not afraid to go out there and risk it.
Yeah, 100%. You can see that right now. A couple of ladies now still going off the front. It looks like there are 3. Belfort now at this point. Charlotte Kolkhoff is now following as well as Sandrine Etienne. And we saw from Etienne, she is such a threat off the front. They trusted in the Zwift Grand Prix that they would bring her back on the Alpe d'Huez, and we never saw her again. So, perfect rider to maybe try and make this stick. But we'll see how this ends up going. Back to Jez and Hannah to call the action, as there is definitely some breaks happening.
Definitely. Thank you very much. Now, at home, don't forget, you can see it on the left-hand side of your screen. You only have 1 minute 45 seconds to rain down the last of your ride-ons that'll count for the jersey. Please keep those ride-ons going throughout the rest of the next 2 races this evening as well. But you only have 90 seconds to get them in to count for the jersey. Find your favourite rider, give them a ride-on right now. We can see on the right-hand side of the screen the ride-ons that have been given so far. Emma Belforth doing very well on 39. Christian Kulczynski with 230-something. Wowza. Popular rider, the American, as always. But we're still seeing the same names that are riders who are very, very happy, Hannah, to take some risks. Will they pay for it? Should they get through to that third and final race, those 5 laps of Glasgow Crit circuit? It's going to be big ask across these 3 races, isn't it?
Big ask. It's a lot of energy used, but it's that risk versus reward, isn't it? Because if it pays off, they've secured their place into race 2 into the Jurassic Coast, but they're also making it very difficult for those behind, because there still is going to be that fight for the remaining spots behind. And if you take a look at how many riders are in that front group now, you take a look down, there's several riders who have got themselves back on. We're talking around 40 riders in that group behind, so it's going to be hotly contested, Jez. Yeah. It certainly is, and Charlotte Kolkhoff, I raced with her for many years, and she was always a rider who wasn't afraid to put herself in a position. It might not work, and we always see she wasn't afraid to go into a breakaway. The breakaway doesn't always stay away, but she wasn't afraid to give it a go. And I think sometimes it does pay off. And if you take a look at the gap now, 13 seconds between Kolkhoff and Belforth. The duo, they're sharing that workload well together too.
Yeah, Charlotte Kolkhoff took a little bit of a time to get on the wheel though and get fully into that draft, but she seems to have recovered quite well now. You're absolutely right. I remember Charlotte as somebody who would take an awful lot of risks on the road, very, very happy in real life to stick it out there and go for it, and doing exactly the same as that in her career in esports now as well. Great riding by her. But Emma Belforth kicked it off. You can see her knocking out some pretty big watts there as well, still staying up around the 6 watts per kilo as well. And once again, I don't know, I think looking at this, that Charlotte Kolkloff might just be losing the wheel a little bit. Belforth out the saddle, rolling a really big gear, as you can see in her shot there. And Charlotte Kolkloff, again, just starting to lose the wheel a little bit, I think, Hannah.
You can see the varying different ways in which they ride and the characteristics of these riders. Belforth, tends to opt for a bigger gear, low cadence. She really grinds that gear, and you can see just out of the saddle. And Kolkloff is almost yo-yoing on and off the wheel of the Swedish rider there. But you can see, in terms of the difference in watts, Emma Belforth, 6.3 watts per kilogram. Kolkloff is still having a little bit of benefit from that draft anyway. She's at 4.9 watts per kilogram. Yeah. And you can see the time gap is only going out now because they realise behind, actually the main, problem now is those riders who are in that group. Make sure you can secure 2 riders. Do they have to worry about these 2 riders out front? Really, it's about securing their place into the next round.
Yep, they're headed back towards the lap arch, of course. They've gone across the bridge. They will pick up the final draft power-up as they go through the lap arch this time. And then it's that QOM climb. I think there's an awful lot of firepower still waiting to be done. We saw the damage it did last time, reducing the group to somewhat 19 riders. There are now 41 riders, we believe, in this group, chasing the 2 out front. Charlotte Kolkloff and Emma Belforth. Kolkloff now on the front. Look at the difference in numbers, though. Our 2 leaders are knocking out consistently higher watts than the group behind, who are playing that risk and reward cautious game back here, thinking about being in the top 30. If you finish 30th and have used hardly any energy, Hannah, and not broken the front, not taken any of the wind, the virtual wind, then you've done it absolutely spot on, I guess. But it's a risky game.
Have. It's a risky game. I mean, you're really playing with fire there, aren't you? If you decide, well, I want to try and risk and come in 30th. But you're quite right, Jez, that if you are saving as much as possible now, it's only going to benefit you in race 2 and 3 if you make it into race 3. And so you're certainly going to have a lot more in the tank. There's around 15 minutes between the 2 races, between race 1 and race 2. So there's a little bit of time to get some recovery for those who do go through. As we see Kolkloff in her pain cave, you can see the difference. She opts for a much higher cadence every now and then, out of the saddle, get back up to speed, and she's so solid on a bike too. Again, out of the saddle, get back into that rhythm, she gets herself back onto the wheel, and then she'll sit back down again.
Yeah, make sure, regardless of the fact that our ride-on competition for the jersey is now closed, make sure you get your ride-ons in for these 2 in particular, because they are entertaining us brilliantly. Thank you everyone at home for getting involved. Share your comments and your thoughts about how you think these 2 are going to do maybe in the upcoming next 2 races. Be nice to them though, because they'll probably read them back at some point on our YouTube channel.
I have to say, Jez, I have to say, I love this ride-on jersey because it shows the next week with how involved and how important the community is to these riders. I think it's fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, let's not forget, all of these riders had to qualify to get in here. It's not like they're in some privileged position where we sort of hand-pluck them as stars of the screen. They had to qualify to be here, so they have come from the community. And of course, regularly, they'll race in races with community riders anyway, so lots of them so well known, and it's been brilliant. I mean, my education, Hannah, you've been helping me along in my education about the world of Zwift racing and the way the community works, and then the way the elite racing works as well. And it's so nice to see these big stars of our sport. We're looking at the likes of a Kuczynski getting those hundreds and hundreds of ride-ons, and that's for good reason. It's because of how they've animated and dominated races out there.
It certainly is, and it's not just been over the last few months in the Zwift Grand Prix, but over years and years of racing in esports, in not just in the big Zwift Classics or Grand Prix, but also racing in the community races. And so riders all around the world are rubbing shoulders with those who they can watch in the broadcast too. So yeah, it's fantastic, and you can see just how many ride-ons Kuczynski has. 276, even Nyquist, 104 ride-ons. Absolutely terrific.
Yeah. Talk about bunching up. Look at this back here. They are really waiting now as well. Nathan, I'm just wondering, between you and Carla, Who are the names in here that you think are going to clean up? Who are the sprinty types who are sitting in and waiting in this group? We're looking at Gabriela Nordin, who's right near the front there as well. But there's an awful lot of waiting going on. Who are the big guns about to open up in amongst these ladies?
Well, I'd say Catherine Furr, you've got obviously Lou Bates, but Lou Bates is more of a drawn-out sprinter. She likes to really make the sprint extremely difficult. There's a couple of riders in here that I'd say Lam Kong. If Lam Kong is able to make it to over the top of this Queen of the Mountain and into the sprint, be on the watch out for her. I have to say, my wife Gabriella's got a pretty good kick as well. Mika Soderstrom, you can't go by her. She is always there in a sprint. So those are the big names there. Now, as far as this gap goes, this is an interesting move. We saw something similar yesterday with Severa, and he was caught at the line. Now, they do have a little bit more of a gap, though, than Severa had going into this. 30 seconds. The thing is they've been working extremely hard on the front there, and if these ladies have been reserving a lot, they can eat away at that in a moment. So, the other thing is, I think that the ladies are going to be a little bit more motivated over the top of this, perhaps because it is going to split down to under 30 in just a moment here. And then it's like, keep the pressure on. You let anybody back, and we're going to end up in a sprint with somebody we might not want to be there, and that's a pretty big risk. So, Carla, you were saying, though, this Emma Belfort, she might have been, we were doing a little chat here, and she might be under the radar for a lot of these riders. Like, who is this off the front all of a sudden? And a big surprise, perhaps, for how strong she is.
Blown away. She's doing an amazing job at the front. She's working really hard. I think these two riders, I think Emma tried Charlotte to go to the front and help out, but I think Charlotte wanted to recover on Emma's draft. So it was brilliant to see. Emma was already open at 11 second up to Charlotte. So I don't know, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. It's a very brilliant gap in between her and the main group.
Yeah, and Belfort, you were saying crazy 20-minute power, but not much sprint. Exactly what we saw some Severa yesterday. So Belfort making sure she's getting through with exactly what she needs to do. That is get ahead of that sprint and finish before everybody else comes with their kick. Really good move here. And she's pushing almost 7 watts per kilogram over the top of this climb. Lightweight climber, using her efforts where she needs to. And I think she's going to make this race a race of attrition across all of them, because that's where she can actually get the win. A little bit of use of a power-up I saw from her just now. Now the pack is split, and this is the next time up. Let's get back into the commentary with Jess and Hannah.
Wow, thank you both very much. This is a big ride being put in by Emma Belfort. But Hannah, these are megawatts she's putting out. She's really pushed it in. Look at that. She's got nearly 45 seconds of lead over the rest. She's dropped Charlotte Kolkloff. Kolkloff now is going to do everything she can to try and hang on. But I don't know if there she is on the climb. But this is a massive effort by Emma Belfort. She looks very likely, let's not speak too soon. She looks really likely to take the win now. But that's going to take some recovering before the second race, isn't it?
It certainly is. It's a big chunk of your energy and your resources. However, Jez, if you want to make it into race 2, and as Jez and Carla, Nathan and Carla were just saying then, if you're a rider who doesn't have much of a sprint and you can't rely on your sprint if it comes down to it in the finale, you have to ride and race to your strengths as a rider, Jez. And so you see Lou Bates here. She's a rider who knows that she can climb well, she can climb with the world's best, but she also has the characteristics and the attributes as a rider. She's got a fantastic turn of speed, and so she has that sprint, she has that punch and that kick. And so for Emma Belfort, she knows that, well, if I want to make it into race 2, I've got to go long, and I've got to be alone.
The recovery between these races is so short. There's about 15 minutes between this race and the next one, where those 30 riders who qualify for the Jurassic Coast point-to-point race, which comes up second, they're going to have to regroup themselves. And one of those riders foremost who wants to be in that top 30 is Charlotte Kolkloff, who we can see her in shot now, was going through all sorts of handlebar chewing to try and stay with Emma Belfort. And I just wonder, Hannah, whether she might look back on that moment and think, I just wonder whether she needed to do that. I'm not saying she didn't need to do it, but I'm just wondering whether she did. It was a big effort, and now she's back in there.
Yeah, big effort, but as I said just a moment ago with Emma Belfort, Charlotte Kolkloff, she she's a fantastic rider. She's got a lot of experience, but I think when you put her up against riders who have got a higher kick and are able to get to those higher watts and are fast at the finish, Charlotte Colclough is going to struggle. So she's only playing to her strengths as a rider. She's got 1.7 kilometers now to get herself into this descent, into the bunch, try and recover as best as possible, and just hang on and hope that enough riders have been dropped from this group now that she's still within those 30.
Well, we are tracking that lovely shot right in front of Emma Belforth, this Swedish rider who struck out in the first race of this Zwift Games Sprint Championship, and she is looking every bit our winner. Nearly 50 seconds of lead now over the main pack, led by Minna Kuistinen, the Finnish rider, in second. And really, she can just relax a little bit here, just knock over steady watts on the descent. We're watching Emma Belforth actually just mopping her brow there, and well she might after a massive effort. She'll be able to relax a little bit, I think, now, because she's inside the final kilometre.
She can. She knows that she's got such an advantage, 48 seconds to the bunch behind, that she doesn't need to keep the chain tight. She can get to the finish line safely inside that 1,000 meters to go. She knows she's got this one in the bag, and I'm sure she's already having a little bit of discussion with the sports directors and the teammate too.
Yeah, getting her Instagram story in as well. Look at her, she's riding to the win and she's messaging someone as well, or updating. Talk about relax. Do you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be worried at all, Hannah. There's me worrying about the second race. She's already started her warm down now. I hope she's confident.
Yeah,
let's watch
absolutely.
the gap. It is holding at about 50 seconds. While she's doing that, she's knocking out a steady 3 watts per kilogram, just about enough to get to the finish line with a big lead still.
And at 40 kilometers per hour too.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, I've seen it all now. I really have. That is brilliant. That is Zwift racing, elite Zwift racing at its very best. Just get a quick social media tap in there before we get to the finish line, and there is the finish line. Emma Belforth is going to take this opening sprint race of 3 on the opening night of action in the inaugural Zwift Games for these elite women, and what a ride by the Swede. There we go. 45 seconds it'll be, something like that. It'll close up a little bit, Hannah, but that's impressive.
Extremely impressive. Very, very impressive performance there from Emma Belforth. And behind, it's Collins who's trying to get the early jump here, the rider from the USA. You can see Merle Bruni, the German rider, who's just trying to close the gap here. And this is all to play for, to get those points, first of all, but also those positions and secure yourself into race 2, Jez.
Oh, it's going to be so close. Don't forget, it is all about the top 30 getting through. We're fleshing out the top 30 now. That's about 20 riders through so far. And we will look to see who is 31st and below. We'll be taking you to that in just a moment. Thank you, Hannah. Well, still they come in. I think we're probably just outside the top 30 now. And these are these sad times for the riders who won't be making it into race 2 or race 3, of course. We will bring you all of these results as they come to us from the studio, of course, but there's that final shot looking back across it. Matt, we watched it together. That was a big move by our race winner in the end, but judging by her form on the bike with her phone there at the finish, maybe she's fully confident in her recovery.
Yeah, Emma Belforth taking a superb run. As you said, she could relax coming into the final. Actually held on by 30 seconds in the end. Really backed off. We've got the results coming now, so we'll be able to walk through those. Well, as you say, Emma Belforth, a nice solo win. Tiffany Penrith was of Canada second. Then we have Aitken, Bruni, Nevin, Prowse, Lou Bates, Vicky Whitelaw, Gabriella Nordin and Lucy Collins. They're all through. Let's have a look at the next 10 that are through, Jez.
Absolutely. So in 11th place, really the sort of between 11th and 30th, a nice comfortable riders who haven't panicked and just ridden in together. Hao Zhang, the Chinese rider, in 11th. Leonie Harper and Imogen Massey, 2 British riders, 12th and 13th. Catherine Furrer, the Swiss rider. Minna Kuistinen, the Finnish rider. Charlotte Colclough getting through, thankfully, after that big ride she did. Just ahead of Jenny Eck, Liz Van Houweling, Natalie Stevenson and Gabby Guerrera also comfortably through in that top 20.
Here we go, the final 10. Well, the American champion has made it through 21st place. Remember, it's all about the top 30. Emmeline Nykvist, her teammate from America, Anna Sfarstrom of Sweden, Eleanor Wiseman of Belgium, Mika Soderstrom there. Of Sweden. Another couple of Americans, Elise Gallegos and Alexei Snova. Last three riders through to the next race. Pia Kummer of Germany, Sarah Lundin of Sweden, and then finally the German Maria Marb at 44.7 seconds is the last rider through. So there is your top 30. A magnificent display by Emma Belforth. I did think at one point she went a little bit too hard, and I thought by dropping Colecloth that was a little bit of a mistake. But the fact that Colecloth got caught, it was the right thing to do, because then she could just ease off. But I tell you what, she's looking very strong. But I hope she can recover. At least she could do the last kilometre relatively easy. But that was a great, great race, and a very selective one too as well.
I've never seen someone on their phone whilst in the lead. She was almost freewheeling, just chilling.
Bit of a flex, wasn't it? Bit of a flex.
Yeah, it looked very natural to me, Matt. I think she knows exactly what she's doing. The question is, how well will she do in our next race, the Jurassic Coast one, which starts very lumpy as well. Should we hand over to Nathan and Carla?
Indeed.
Because that was, well, was it showboating, Nathan, or do you think it's just she's got it all measured and dialed?
As far as Belforth goes, I think that Belforth is playing to her talents, because the reality is if she would not have done that, she may have found herself in a risky position. You know, at the end of the day, she's so strong, though. Carla, speak to this. Maybe she took that risk, and in the end, she probably would have been with that main pack of about 27. So maybe a little bit of a kick in herself, but at the same time, like, she showed she's got that. And that kind of gives you a boost of confidence. Like, I can do this again, and I can do this again, because I have a feeling she's going to have to do that again in order to take the win out here today.
That's right. I think she was amazing. I mean, outstanding racing. I mean, she used her 1 minute power, which is 7.8 watts per kilo, really, really wisely. And that is why she won the race. And she was texting, was finishing, because she knew she had it and she was trying to recover for the next race.
Now, I think that pack in the middle of the chase pack and the front, once they came over the top of that Queen of the Mountain, at least I know that what I was saying to Gabriella was like, you got 27, just they don't look like they're coming back. Make sure the pace is just high enough, and they could kind of calm it into the finish line. It was really those 3, 4, 5, 6 riders. Once they knew they were not making that juncture any longer, at that point, they knew it was about their battle amongst each other. And I saw Basuni, I saw Rathwell making a couple of moves and trying to maybe get back to the pack and get involved in the sprint. And then, it's not going to happen. I mean, there was a lot of decision making at the last moments, actually. And I saw Pia Kummer, who I know is a really good sprinter. She would have loved to be in that front pack, but she set up perfectly, it looked like to me, to get that last spot or two at the line. Rathwell, though, off the back, that's a lot of talent that hasn't made their way into the finish here. Hey, Carla.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's really sad just to see not all of the ladies went through it, but I can see why everybody relaxed, because it's no point. If you know you're going to go through on those 30 spots, why will you push yourself so much and tie yourself up for the next race? So I think I really can't wait to see the next race. I think it's going to be really, really spicy.
It is. I think there was some reservations, but this next one, only 10. Well, back to Jez and Matt.
Well, while those riders, it's all going to be spicy all the way through now, that's for sure. While the riders outside of the top 30 may be out of contention for today, it is all still to play for many of these riders, especially those who scored good points, which in this instance, because we've had the reduced field, is going to be all of them. Strong finishes in the next two events would mean, of course, they can still feature in that overall map.
Yeah, just going through the list here. We're going to pick out a few surprises as well. We saw that in the men's yesterday, but I think most of the big hitters that I expected to be in the top 30 are. But there we go. That's 31 to 40. Rathwell, McCarthy, Brisson, Kelly, and the rest. Anybody that stands out so far for you?
Not really. No, I think you're right. I mean, it's a bit of a shame for Lucia Blanco, because we saw her pressing the pace at the front and attacking, as we did Sophie Wright in the end as well. A real shame for her. Two riders who We saw Give It a Go today as well. I guess we'll never know whether if they hadn't done that, they might have been inside that top 30. Getting it right on that descent, that fast run into the finish is really, really tricky, isn't it?
Also, I think it's worth mentioning, remember we've got 2 more races. Obviously those riders from 30th to 54th there won't be racing today, but they can race next week. And because of the slightly reduced number of the field, all of these riders have actually scored quite a lot of points.
Yep.
So I think anybody who scored today still has a good chance if they can turn things around next week and the week after when we've got a completely different event. So I still think it's all to play for, but I think clearly we saw the strongest rise to the top. Not a lot of surprises there for me anyway.
Let's just bring back in Nathan and Carla, if we can, for a minute. Both of you, starting with you, Nathan, I guess, in terms of tactics that we saw there, I guess there was quite a lot of holding back and waiting. Did you spot any names in there that you were surprised, either of you, to see not making it into the top 30?
Well, I only saw right at the finish line there, Megan Rathwell, very specifically, what a heartbreak spot. I was actually trying to message her. Man, 31st place. And a rider who is such a good rider coming from that Riot team, a community team that is dominant in the Americas. Carla, did you notice anybody that was unable? I mean, Bassoni, I think she might have been right on the edge. But Sarah Roach, another one to be watching out for. But who are you picking out there, Carla, that might not have made it through that we had high hopes for?
Same name as you, Nathan. Obviously, I was looking at my team as well. So there's 3 of my riders that didn't make it through, which I'm really sad not to see them going to race 2. But super proud of them. They've done an amazing job.
Yeah, now looking here, I am seeing, it looks like Busoni did not make it through. That's a big one. Blanco was mentioned. Lona Icken, definitely one that I was expecting to see big things from, especially when it came to a sprint, but just could not make it over the top of the Queen of the Mountain with the main pack. If she is there for a sprint, we've seen her time and again do an amazing job. Looking through as well, I would say Rossignol and Danelle, both big names that did not make it through. They were fighting, and they were actually, I believe, Rossignol as well as Busoni not making it through, and McCarthy, they were right on that edge and outsprinted at the line by Coomer, London, and Marb, just to barely. Lexi Snover as well, driving the pace, just barely making it in. So that cusp again, those about 6 to 7 riders over the top, they fought so hard and had their own battle going on behind. But those are the big ones that haven't made it through. I think from here on, though, it's going to be the focus on the names. I think now that, Carla, the risks get even higher now, right? Like before it was 50-50. Now it's only 10 riders going through. And I think the jitters are going to be a little more because a lot of these ladies, they look at each other, they know who's who now and who's probably going to be there and make it through. But now I think that question mark gets a little bit bigger about who's going to get through and whether or not it can be you. Would you say that's true, Carla?
Yeah, I think they will have to make things happen on that Titans Graph climb. Because especially the ladies that don't have the sprint numbers, they need to push, they need to break away in trying to ensure they get into those top 10 for the last race.
Yeah, and we saw it's a very tactical sprint too yesterday, extremely tactical. So, I mean, the way in which you have to time it, we saw riders going out of the race yesterday. Brian Duffy Jr. not making it through, the current U.S. national champion. Hopefully, Kristen Kolchinski is so savvy. I have a feeling that she's going to be there. But is that another rider who's worked on her sprint? Because Kolchinski, she may be a really, really strong rider and have a good kick. But she's one that I'm like, amongst the top 10 sprinters in the world, I'm not sure she's the top 5. And so I'm wondering if she's been doing her recons. I mean, I think a lot of these riders have been checking out this course specifically because I think this one is the most dangerous one to not get it exactly right like we saw yesterday.
That's right. And I think if Kuczynski wants to be on those 10 spots, she's going to have to attack that climb. But even if riders don't want to attack in that climb particularly, there is other opportunities after the sprint, the woodland sprint, that you can potentially break away and ensure that you get into those 10 spots.
Yeah, it's a good point. It is not an easy course. People look at that coast and they think, oh, just going to be kind of chill, go into a sprint. No, there's a lot of little punchy climbs through this entire course. Watch out for attacks. I think the ladies might be a little bit more aggressive on this specific course. Let's head back to the studio for Jez and Matt.
So, sprint race 1 of 3 is over, and now we head to the second race with our 30 riders that have been whittled down from that first big pack. So let's have a quick reminder of the route, shall we? We're looking at the Jurassic Coast route. It's a brand new point-to-point route which starts off with a proper roller coaster. In fact, they are the roller coaster roads, going through the redwoods, past Jarvis the Unlucky Bear, on towards the Titans Grove climb, as we know, all the way up that longest climb, through the mysterious valley, out onto the coast, along the sandy beach where we hit the sand itself, which really drags on the riders, and then heading along the southern coast in the direction of the Swashcotch Sprint itself. Slightly uphill, Matt, as well, to that finish at the Swashcotch Sprint.
Yeah, it's going to be, every race is going to be interesting, and the thing that intrigues me the most is the fact that the riders, again, have not raced. They've ridden on this road before because they've had the opportunity to, but they've not raced on it. There you go, 19.5 Ks, so the distance is a little bit shorter. I'd estimate there's going to be about 25, 27 minutes of racing, and I think there's a lot to learn from what the men did too, and I'm sure the women would have watched the men's race with a lot of interest. We saw riders who weren't confident in their sprint going long. An acute reminder, we had, we're now 30, it's only 10 that go through to the final round. Yep. So if you don't trust your sprint, you've got to do something different. I mean, Kristen Kulczynski is the name that stands out because she doesn't have a good sprint, she's got to go long. And what we saw yesterday, which I think would be quite interesting, is this change in road surface, because we do go through the sand, it gets a little bit grippier, a little bit tackier, just like it would in real life, but nobody's going to fall off, thankfully. No. And I think that will give the opportunity for riders to try and go long. So I think we might see it splitting. I think there might be 1 or 2 moves in Titans Grove, but the men were a bit muted on there, weren't they? Didn't see as much action as we thought. But let's see, but we've got some of the finest Zwift riders in the world in that top 30. A few surprises who missed out, but most are the real hardcore Zwifters. A lot of OGs in there.
It's funny you say that, Matt, because I rode this course in the week in one of our test events for the elite riders, and I actually found I'm still learning the nuances of the Zwift racing and how the gamification works and how to work things out. Of course, we all know it's totally different to in real life. There's so much about it which in a way is almost better, and the feathering of power and easing off and then knowing when to apply it is a crucial part of that. That rolling roller coaster they take at the beginning of the redwoods I found quite tricky to get right, and now the pack is smaller. Maybe we'll bring Nathan and Carla in. Nathan, I found it really hard to get the feathering of power right in between those rollers and not find myself carrying too much speed up the next one and then getting ahead of the group when I didn't want to. It's hard to get it right, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be pretty difficult. There's definitely a Zwiftcraft to it for sure when it comes to the rolling up and over the top, making sure. And the other thing is in a pack even too. It's different being on the front than it is being in a pack about how you're going to use that roll through power. There's actually a lot of control that you have with when you're putting the power out or not putting it out within a pack versus when you're putting out and not putting out when you're all alone off the front. I mean, Carla, even the idea of getting into a super tuck being at specifically 57 kilometers per hour on downhills that are 3% or more, negative 3% or more, I mean, that's one thing versus the braking that you might experience within a pack if you soft pedal. I mean, these are huge things within a group that riders who ride a lot more Zwift are going to have a ton of experience with, aren't they, Carla?
That's right. I think when you get the racecraft, you become, like, it's funny to say, but you become one with your avatar. You absolutely know how to move within the packing, within the races. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see how things play out here.
It will definitely be. And one thing definitely to pay attention to when it comes to this course is the Titans Grove KOM is where they are getting that aero power up. We saw yesterday in the men's race, early power-ups being deployed all in to try and get to that finish line in a breakaway prior to the pure sprinters that ended up swallowing up any breakaway whatsoever. So on this course, that aero power-up though, Carla, it is massive when it comes to all the rolling undulations. There can be a pretty big gap established, but you got to capitalize, don't you, Carla, if you do get that. And I think the riders here, they're going to be way more on edge to bring anything back that gets off the front because there is only a 1 in 10 chance now. You don't got a 1 in 30. You can't let somebody like Emma Belforth get away, I would think. At least if I were de-esting, what would you do, Carla?
I will definitely chase whatever moves to the front. I would definitely not let anybody go away because it's only 10 spots, which is not many. So you need to make sure that you secure your spot for the last race.
100%. I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a lot of chasing and a lot of breaks trying to be made. We'll see how this ends up playing out. Racing's just about here, so let's head back to the studio for Jez and Matt.
Thank you both very much. I'm going to pose this question now, Matt, and maybe our experts out there can think about it too as well. We'll talk about this maybe after this second race on the Jurassic Coast route. How different would it be if we reversed this and had the Titans Grove climb near the end? So it would come with only, 5k before the end. Instead, it comes after 5k, and then we have 14, nearly 15 kilometres of up and down to the finish. I just wonder whether it might make things completely different.
It would make it very different, of course it would. But that's what I like about the way a lot of riders, especially if you're a rider that favours the climbing, would like it the other way around. But I like the fact that all these courses are new, they're disruptive, they're forcing riders to think differently. Even something as different as that surface change at the finish has made riders think, like Nathan was just saying, and Carla, when do I deploy my power up? Do I save it? Do I use it to break away because I'm not overly confident? I actually like the fact the climb's at the start, not at the end, because it's different and it makes riders think differently, measure their effort differently, and maybe try something new. But anyway, I think we're going to nearly about join the race. They don't need much of a warm-up, do they, after what they had to go through a minute ago?
We saw yesterday, we got a bit of an insight in between the races of watching some of our screens of the riders warming up and warming down. But for some of the riders, it's not even a case of warming down and warming up. You just keep going again steadily. And we are off. Race 2 of these 3 sprint races in the opening day of competition, the opening weekend of competition in the inaugural Zwift Games are underway. Hannah Walker, I've got this feeling that this is going to be much less muted and cautious than the first race. They can't afford to be. There's only 30 riders have started it.
30 riders, just under 20 kilometres of racing, and as you and Matt were just discussing there, the fact that the climb comes so early on in the race, if that is your forte as a rider, you've got to use it to your advantage. There is a few little peaks and troughs, especially when you head towards Woodland Sprint. Just before you get there, there's a couple of little spikes on the road you can use as a launch pad. And also I'm curious how they can use the finish to their advantage. But it's certainly going to be one of those races here where it's going to be tense. And because only 10 riders go through, as you see, Emma Belforth once again, she's so relaxed and so calm. And I really admire her ability to be able to be so calm and composed. And I think this is a real art that she knows she's capable. She knows what she's just done. She's had just over 15 minutes to get any of the, if possible, the lactate, and she's off. She's off, and she's...
Wow.
The riders need to be careful here because they've seen how strong she is. They know that she's capable of staying away. And just look at the style. She thrives on that big gear, low cadence, and look at the gap she's opened up already.
Hannah, I just don't... I want to know who she's messaging. She finished tapping away on her phone, put it down and went, here, I tell you what, I'm going to give you 7.5 watts per kilo. Smash!
I'm in awe.
They must have been it. Well, no, maybe they wouldn't be expecting it because I wasn't expecting this. I really did think in this race, surely she's got to play it a bit more carefully, but absolutely none of it. Belforth, definitely the rider of the whole Zwift Games so far for these elite women. Absolutely brilliant. What's she going to do? Is she going to do a Remco Evenepoel and just ride away with this?
Yeah, or a Tadej Pogacar.
Yeah,
who knows?
unbelievable.
It is impressive. I mean, like you just said, Jez, actually, no one would have been expecting this because she's done it once before. They'd be thinking, well, there's no way that you'd be able to do it back to back. She's taking it. She's taking her opportunity, grasping it with both hands. 6 seconds to Lou Bates, and it starts to pose the question, who's going to do the chasing? Which rider's going to do the chasing? Do they want to be the rider who's using up their efforts, which they will need in the finale? Only 10 riders go through. There's 30 riders here in this race. And she only continues to extend that lead. Kolczynski, now for one of the first times, is actually putting a nose in the wind here up towards the front. And they'll start to sense the danger now.
Yeah, well, you ask the question, Hannah, who is going to chase? Should we ask that question of Nathan and Carla? Who's going to chase? What do you do now? And Nathan and Carla, were either of you expecting anything like this from our leader, Emma Belforth, again?
Well, I definitely was. I mean, I think this is her chance. I think this is her opportunity, because these kinds of watts per kilogram that she can put out, this kind of a effort she can put out, puts everybody else in a really difficult position, because they either need to start working together and thinking about almost like a team group, 29 riders, versus the reality of Emma Belforth now at this point. But you at the same time have to kind of go gloves off against those same riders you're working with, or do they say, forget it, now it's a race for 9? That's pretty risky. I mean, Carla, this really puts the group in a tough spot, doesn't it?
Indeed. I'm blown away. And I can see now Kristen Kuczynski is trying to push and is taking with Lou Bates with her and Gabriela Guerra. So I think it's going to be really nice to see whether they were able to catch Emma. But she's doing a very good job. I hope it sticks, really. And she's able to come to race 3.
100%. I mean, it's amazing. And this does stick. And if some riders go across, this a whole new situation opens up here, actually. And maybe that's what Kuczynski is thinking. Maybe that's what Bates is thinking. Maybe that these riders are starting to think, look, if we can make this a 10-rider situation, then we all work together. And that's the moment, or even if they get 15, they might all start thinking, okay, now we're a lot more comfortable and willing to work, not with 30 riders, not with dragging anybody along with. So this may be a situation where they're looking for an opportunity, actually, rather than looking at it as a negative thing. Carla, I think that perhaps that is exactly what a rider like Kuczynski or Gallegos, now that we see her making her way to the front as well, might be saying, okay, let's take advantage of this and try and get with Belforth off the front and get 10 riders involved. She's now within striking distance, though, and this now is probably going to make the pack feel a little bit better about things, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. I just can't wait to see who's going to chase now. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I wonder here. It's going to be interesting now. They're within about 4 seconds. They do see that things are coming back a lot. And this next climb, this Titans Grove KOM is definitely going to be a place where I think they can bring back a lot of time. There's a lot of drafting on it. And I think when the race is hard uphill, the race is hard for everyone. So you have a lot more willingness to try and do some work on the front, because, you know, everybody else has to work. Let's go ahead and see what Jez and Hannah have to think about that.
Both of you, is we've still got quite a lot of climbing to go. That's for sure. We're not quite to the top of Titans Grove just yet either. Doesn't even look like the group has been reduced much, and I guess we'd expect that, because these are they're the qualifying riders. We expect them on paper at least to be the strongest riders, I guess, Hannah. But I just was not... If you told me this was going to happen, that Emma Belforth would be off the front again, I just wouldn't believe it. She's obviously not had any kind of warm down in between. I reckon she just kept going at the same, 5-6 watts per kilo in between the two races. Unbelievable, isn't it?
It is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. And, you know, I really admire this tenacious style of racing and the way in which she has decided very early on, I'm not going to wait until the climb. I'm going to go early. I'm going to establish a gap. That gap came down to 3 seconds once we started to see the moves from Kristen Kuczynski, Lou Bates up towards the front, Jez. And she's continued. She didn't become afraid. The fact that the bunch were just behind her, she kept with her rhythm. She kept with her pace. She's extended it to just over 13.5 seconds now to Nevin, the Norwegian rider, and Führer, the Swiss rider there. And she's riding to her tempo, she's riding to her rhythm, and she's riding to her capabilities of how she knows she can sustain this performance and this effort for the duration here.
There are notably a few riders just suffering at the back there a little bit. I think we've dripped off a couple off the back as we're looking at Anna Svardstrom, one of the Swedish Zwifters, who is pretty comfortably right in the middle of that group as well. It is Marb who's just off the back. If I remember correctly, she qualified 30th to get into this race. She was the lucky 30th to get in. And at the moment, she's not quite within drafting distance at the back of that pack, right in the bottom of our shot down there. That is a painful place to be, Hannah. Not least, of course, because they are just about to go over the top of Titans Grove and pick up, there she is, and pick up that aero power-up. She will need it, Maria Marb. We're watching her now in shot, desperately trying to get back in contact before they start that fast descent, because once they get on that descent, of course, they're going to be benefiting from the draft of each other, that really fast rolling pack of riders. hopefully she'll get back on for her.
It's agonisingly close here, and you just start to see the gap start to fall out now, Jez, for Maria Marb. But she just needs to try and keep herself well within contention. If she can keep it to that gap there of just over 2 seconds, there is that possibility she can come back. And I was just taking a look a little bit further back. Pia Kuma, the great German sprinter, is 51 seconds in arrears of Emma Belforth. So she is out of contention, the German. 28 remain in contention at the moment, really fighting for those top 10 spots.
Yeah, 10 riders to go through. Let's keep reminding ourselves. We whittle it down very, very quickly. Now, I have to say, I'll always be very polite to our viewers at home, but I've got to say it, you lot, you are stingy. 36 thank you. 37 ride-ons for Emma Belforth. Get them going. Remember, these don't now count towards the ride-on jersey for next time. But Hannah, she deserves a lot more than that. She has been the rider of the series so far, hasn't she?
She certainly has. And one thing's for certain, she stamped her authority here, Jez. And so couldn't agree more with Emma Belforth. 37 ride-ons. She certainly deserves some more ride-ons in the pocket. They're not going to weigh her down. And try and follow some of these other riders too. When you take a look on the companion app, you see there Mina Kostonen. She's been up towards the front. She's got 6 ride-ons. Just fire it up. It takes only a few seconds. Merle Brunner, who we can see in our picture-in-picture too.
Yeah. Don't forget, once you've followed them,
I'm going to do it now.
Do it. Go and do it. Yes, I should do the same, actually. We should practice what we preach, shouldn't we? It's well worth doing it, you lot at home, because you never know. It'll happen to you, I'm sure, if you're Zwifting enough and you're riding in Watopia. Chances are you'll come across some of these riders out doing training sessions. So a nice way of socialising with them too. Now, don't forget, the data screens that we're seeing, you can also access at home. You can see them in the right-hand side of your shot there. So there's the race screen on the left. And on the right, if you want to see that screen, just follow the link at the bottom of the page right now. You can find it also in the notes underneath our YouTube stream, or where you're streaming right now. It should be in there and amongst those notes. zwiftgames.link/race dashboard for all the data. Great to see lots more ride-ons raining down on this pack as they ride along as well. But they are, once again, very familiar format. Chasing Emma Belforth. She now has, let's call it 18 seconds, shall we, have on that pack, being led by, well, now Christian Kultinski, who's rolled through to the front. And, well, the thing is, we know, don't we, that there's we're watching Kultinski. She's also on her phone. Maybe these are tactics playing out. I can't believe it's all social media, Hannah. Surely not.
No. Well, I think as well, it's a great opportunity at this point for Kultinski, and even Belforth previously, is to have a little bit of a discussion with your teammates or your sports director, just to get some tactics, what's going on up ahead, just to get a little bit of knowledge, but also what to do next, and just a little bit of information.
Hannah, Matt Stevens alongside me, just been very handy in looking up our leader, Emma Belforth, and finding out a little bit more about her. Turns out, IRL, she's a very successful mountain biker as well. Swedish national champion, in fact, in 2022 in the XCO, in the elite category, that is. Top performer on the mountain bike circuit in general, specifically nationally, but also internationally as well. So that was really interesting to find out. So she's used to going hard. These XCO mountain bikers, of course, they tend to only know one way of doing it. It's all on, isn't it? It's full on all the time. So she's definitely carried that into her Zwifting for sure, the Swedish woman.
And it's being able to cope with that high intensity for a period of time of, sort of 40 minutes, 50 minutes. And that's exactly what Emma Belforth is able to do. Thanks for that, Matt Stevens. A fantastic insight to the Swedish rider. And when you see that crossover of disciplines, you see how they go hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jenny Eck is the next one to roll to the front. I think it's the undulation of this course. I was talking about it earlier. We're not down to the coastal part yet. We're still very much in the Jurassic part of this Jurassic coast route. And it seems to be the riders we've got coming to the front very often, it's in the dips and the compressions between them. They just press on a little bit. And as I was finding in the week, in my amateur status riding this course, it's quite easy to find yourself not just on the front, but off the front. And I'm not sure Jenny Eck necessarily wants to be there just yet. Having said that, we're now going into roller, which may be another opportunity opportunity for riders to try and bridge. I guess it all depends whether riders like Kristen Kulczynski, who we see here, just starting, or is she going clear? No, she's closed down by Lou Bates. I guess it just depends, Hannah, whether you want to try and put it beyond doubt and get up there ahead of the rest. Because, 10 from 30, the odds aren't quite as good as they were in the first race, where it was 50-50. Now it's a lot harder and a lot easier, I guess, to get it wrong.
And of course, with one rider off the front, it's 9 riders who will go through from this group. So it will start to become very intense. And I think riders who can deal with that pressure, knowing that they can really rely on the way they want to race and how they've come in with their tactics, and they know that they're willing to take the risk. It's those who are able to deal with that pressure, Jez, on their shoulders and not overthink that and start to use energy by overthinking here.
Yeah, and we can already see on our timing screens, those of you who've brought up that second screen will be able to see this, that we've now got 2 riders, sadly both German riders, who are off the back as well. Maria Marb, who we watched desperately trying to hang on, she's now about 15-20 seconds behind the main pack, and Pia Kummer, another rider who's also quite a way back behind her. So we know we've whittled it down by 2 more, but that big pack still battling for those 9 places behind Emma Belforth, and that is if Emma Belforth is able to hang on, because now we're out of the woods, we're out into the open terrain, we're almost down to sea level on the beach as well. And these last 9 kilometres, I think, Hannah, are quite hard. Not necessarily hard in an undulating and a climbing sense, but just I guess something mentally for me I found riding this course is because it's so long and straight.
Yeah, and as well, it's the first point-to-point course that we've had this evening. Of course, previously we had laps, so you were familiar of the course in terms of you'd seen it before. It's of course a finish before, which all the riders know so well in Watopia. But I think you're quite right, Jez, in saying that the back part of the course, now we've got Titans Grove out of the way, it is undulating. You have those little peaks along the way, and then you have that descent into the final couple of kilometres, and then that kick to the finish line. So it's going to be, again, timing that right when you want to start to open up your effort. As we head to the pain cave of the Scottish rider Natalie Stevenson, this rider has so much experience in esports and on Zwift, and she's been racing for such a long time. Another rider who was racing in those World Championships in Glasgow, and you can see with her style, solid on the bike, nice high cadence, just sitting in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, Hannah, that's quite noticeable. I was going to say exactly the same thing. She's got quite a high cadence for it was almost like a road cadence rather than the quite low cadence, often down to 70 and below, that we see in so many of these elite Zwifters.
Absolutely, and even in this race, in comparison to what we saw in race 1, the heart rate's a little bit lower at the moment for these riders, but I do expect it to rise as they all... It seems a little bit cagey right now. No one's wanting to try and make that first move. That's what it seems from the outside here. And so nobody's wanting to use the crucial energy, the legs that they'll need. And I can also start to imagine that there's a real buildup of lactate in the legs. Of course, you know, when your muscles are making energy anaerobically, that's the byproduct. And I can imagine for some of these riders, the legs are going to be burning.
I think we only had to look at the picture of Emma Belforth to see that. Her avatar looks nice and calm, but her IRL picture, bottom left, she is chewing wasps. She's going through a whole world of pain down there, but it's self-inflicted pain, isn't it? Let's just go over to Nathan Guerra. Carla Williams, you two, can I ask you this? I know it's slightly unfair. Is she going to hang on, or is she going to be absorbed and swallowed up by some attacks?
This amount of a gap, I think it's over at this point. And not because this couldn't get closed down. The way they are racing in the pack, those numbers that I'm seeing right now, they're racing for 9 places now. I can see, and they may even start attacking, but the attacking that'll take place I don't know if it's even going to bring this back. And it'll be the kind of attacking where it's go, did anybody come with? Can we split it again? Back off. Can we split it again? It's not going to be this consistent TTT type style, they're not going to work together, I don't think, at this point, because they're just racing each other for 9 places. I mean, Carla, what do you think? I think at this point they've said, look, the reality is if we try and go with Emma, we're wasting a massive amount of energy. It's not worth it. I'm going to trust that I get in, and then she's used all that, and we can get her at Glasgow. What do you think, Carla?
I totally agree with you, Nathan. I think Emma's got the first spot. But I believe that maybe we could potentially see a breakaway after the sprint, same way that we saw this yesterday on the men's race. We saw a breakaway after the sprint, and it could potentially work if you want to secure those 9 spaces. But yes, definitely seeing the speed that the chase group is doing is impossible. It's just they're really conserving energy to the end or to a potential attack.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, again, the coast here, after that little sprint section, they're going to do a sprint banner. There's a downhill, a flat, and then a nice little uphill grind, actually. In that section, I think there's definitely some riders who are going to make it look real hard right there because they don't want to come to the line with some of these top sprinters. Well, back to Jez and Hannah.
Thank you, you two. Yeah, it was Håvard Glednes, the Norwegian, who took that flyer yesterday in the men's race. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch yesterday's racing, last night's racing, back on our YouTube channel. He took that flyer just after the Woodland sprint there, as our pundits there were suggesting might happen here. Let's see, because the Woodland sprint itself is on a bit of a rise. It serves as a nice little kicker, very fast off the top of it too as well. Here's that front-on shot again, looking at Emma Belforth. She has, Hannah, nearly a minute now.
It's exceptional, isn't it? How she's been able to build on this performance and this ride, back-to-back rides, both of them off the front, and especially in terms of the speed. Even when you take a look at the speed of both of these races, they're not hanging around here. And so, you know, I doff my cap to Emma Belforth here. This is phenomenal. We're just touching and approaching the 1 minute marker. Bates up towards the front. Here's Elise Gallegos, the rider from the USA.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something that I'll do live on air if Emma Belforth does this in the third and final race as well. I can't think of anything ridiculous to do because the ride itself would be so ridiculous. I can't believe she's doing this, but well, let's see. She's got to get into that race first of all, the third and final race. Only the top 10 go through. She's looking exceedingly comfortable right now with 5k to go. They're high up now, and she's onto that sandy section. And this is the part where she'll feel the drag, the load on her legs as you go into the sand. It's just that little bit more sappy through there, as you'd expect it to be.
It certainly is. I think the only reward for her once she gets through that sandy section, once she gets back onto the asphalt, she'll feel like she's got diamond legs. She'll feel incredibly fast. So we're on board with Maria Marb. She's back in the bunch, the German.
Yeah, well spotted.
That's one thing to not discount of how well Maria Marb has got herself back into that bunch, because you could see how intense it was on that Titan's climb.
Well, she has chased herself back in really well. She wasn't miles off the back either, and we've seen her desperately trying to stay with them. The pack now itself onto the sand. Sand section isn't that long. It's pretty straight once they've taken this bend. That is a massive seagull. That's enough to scare off the dinosaurs. Anyway,
I have
don't
to say,
feed them.
For Maria Marb there, Jez, I mean, that's a stubborn ride. Not giving in. Not giving in to the climb, not giving up, and getting yourself back into that. And I think sometimes when you're off the back of a group, whether that be in esports or an IRL race, and you get yourself back in, you almost have that change in mindset. And it's like, I've done it once now. I've got myself back into this group. I'm here for a second time. I've been given a second opportunity to get myself through into race 3. And I think you have a big shift in your mindset and lay it all down on the line. Incredible, Marb.
As one of our producers just pointed out to us in our ears, she's doing a marvellous ride. Thank you for laughing. No one else did. Right, we
Everyone
are
at home
watching.
did, Jez. Everyone at home did.
I'm sure they did. We're watching our resplendent lone leader. Is she about to get on her phone? That's the question, Hannah. I reckon she's already texting someone, and we'll come back to her in-shot screen, I suspect, in just a moment, our leader, Emma Belforth. But I reckon it won't be long before she's doing a social media, doing a shopping list, getting ready for tomorrow, maybe. Look at that, 104 her lead over that pack. There's still we've got to have the sort out from these, what have we got, 27 riders, 26 riders in this pack we're looking down on right now. They've got to sort it out amongst themselves, and I cannot believe they're all just going to wait for the sprint when you've got the likes of Lou Bates there rolling around at the front.
Yeah, the only rider who has been distanced from the pack is Pia Kuma, the German. So we've got 28 riders who are in this group here, so it's all to play for, and it is becoming tense. It's becoming cagey. I'm curious to know from Carla's perspective as a team manager of the Ionian team as to where do riders use their aero power up? Do they just save it all for the finish line? What would she be telling her riders in order to make sure that they qualify for race 3?
Yes, I think the riders that have the minute in the group, they have very good sprints, so I would probably definitely push them to use the power up for the final sprint. But for other riders that they are not good with the sprint numbers, I would definitely recommend them to use it as they attack out on the uphill, just to break away and trying to get a spot for the next race.
Yeah, that's a good point, Carla. I think. Go ahead, guys. Go ahead, Hannah.
No, Nathan, go on. You carry on, Nathan. I want you to. We've only got 2.5K left.
Yeah, sure. So, I think with this 2.5K here, at this point, I just don't know if anybody's going to take the risk. We may see a 1K to go or something like that. I mean, who's in here is the big question that is not that confident in their sprint. And at this point, if you time things right, even if you're not the absolute best sprinter in the world, you may be able to use the pack dynamics to your advantage. So some of these riders might be thinking, look, if I time this aero power up correctly, I may be able to get through if I just take the best advantage in the best position you possibly can. So after they have already, gone through that little bit of a climb now at this point and hitting the flatter sections, I'm just not sure anybody's going to be willing to take that kind of a risk. We'll see, though. It may be a drawn out. Lou Bates is known. She is really known for taking a long sprint and trying to really drag things out into a drag race. Will that come back to bite her? If she does, it's a big risk to take. We'll see.
Nathan, thank you very much, both of you, and Carla too. I've done a little bit of analysis myself, and I can tell you one rider who's not confident in her sprint, Emma Belforth. Seemingly, by the way she's riding, not even thinking about sprints, in full time trial mode, 2 races in a row right now. And she's got her countrywoman, Anna Svardstrom, right at the front there as well. In fact, the Swedish riders all right up there, 3, 4 of them right up there at the front of that pack. They've done well tonight already, qualifying to get in here. Hannah, how on earth are they going to sort this out between them? It's looking already like it's going to come down to a massive Watts fest between these riders in this tiny pack now.
It certainly is. And just to come off the back of Nathan and Carla's comments of Lou Bates and the fact that she likes to go early, all of these riders within this group will know that she likes to go early. She likes to get that jump, and she's able to sustain that high power for a long period of time. And so if you're a rider, you should be watching out for the fact that, anticipate that Lou Bates is going to make a move and go long into that final kilometre. Get on the coattails of that and try and pip her at the finish.
Yeah, we are just working our way through the mist on the edge of the woodland. We've gone through the woodland sprint, of course. Lots of these riders still hanging on to, I can't remember the last time I saw any of them use their aero power up. Some did on the descent, didn't they? But I'm suspecting some of them have still got that in there. Unless I've missed it, Hannah, and they're going to be using it probably in the sprint. We'll look out for that maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be using that and keeping that for the sprint. And, quite like what Carla was saying, for those who have got a great kick and a great sprint on them, keep that aero power up for the finish line. 15 seconds, it's the one you want, and especially for a finish like this. But for Belforth, needn't worry.
needn't worry at all. She is chilling. I mean, she's not chilling. She's still knocking out 2.5 watts per kilo at the moment, which is on a descent, still pressing on a little bit, but she must be confident there as well. And Nevin, the Norwegian, just getting a little bit of coaching from alongside her too. I like it. I like it when we get others coming into the shot as well. We see the combined effort of pushing these riders on. This is it. We're into the last 600 metres. Emma Belforth is closing in. You're going to come into a little bit more sunlight. Here we go alongside the edge of the coast. We're out of the shady murkiness of the woods, and Emma Belforth is going to take her second win of the night, and it's an even bigger win than the longer race in the opening one. Over a minute of lead over that chasing pack. Now that might come down, I suspect, as the sprint starts, Hannah, but what a ride by the Swedish rider here.
Exceptional, exceptional. I doff my cap to Emma Belforth, the Swede. I think it's been a valiant effort. I think it's been a very brave effort, and I think the fact that she's had the strength and the guts to go for glory back to back, the same tactic, it's paid off for her. I think fantastic performance. Well done, chapeau.
Absolutely. I was questioning in the first race whether she'd done too much. Had she gone too soon? Will she get caught? And she's done exactly the same this time. This time round, notably, I haven't been questioning that because we know she's got the strength to hang on. And boy, has she done that. We can see the gap coming right down behind, though. Emma Belforth is going to take the win in this second race. The first ever women's winner on the Jurassic Coast route is Emma Belforth. Double winner on the night. And here comes the chase behind. And boy, is it coming in quick as well. Hao Zhang, the Chinese rider, is in second place. Eleanor Wiseman joining her too. We've seen Eleanor Wiseman in shot, looking like she's working really hard. There's the finish line as well. These two are going to get caught though, because those power-ups are being dropped. Loads of aero power-ups going down as well. Mika Soderstrom, one of the best sprinters in the race, coming through on the line to take second place. Swedish riders, first and second. They are flying, Hannah.
Absolutely flying. Carla Williams said to watch out for Mika Soderstrom, and well, winning the bunch sprint from behind for second place. And you know, you saw riders who went early there. Wiseman went early, the Belgian, ended up getting caught. Back to you guys in the studio.
Matt, wow. I really don't know what to say.
Well, I've been commentating on races on Zwift for quite a while now, since we started doing it along with Nathan, and I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. And it's the time gaps as well, and the fact that she's backed off near the end. She's untouchable. Yep. I was looking back through the last time a woman rode like this. It would have been, Annemiek van Vleuten at the World Championships back in Yorkshire. But no, an absolute tremendous ride, a bold ride. But clearly, she didn't back herself in the sprint. But nobody could match the pace. Even Kristin Kulczynski tried to get across the gap early. She had to give up. Yep. I think Kristin Kulczynski is one of the riders that qualified, thankfully, because she's my tip. Yep. But what a show. What a show. We've got the results up now. Here's your top 10.
There we have it. Emma Belforth. We know. The gap did come down in the end, as you can see. In the end, down to 20 seconds. Mika Soderstrom, I did think, had been hiding very well in there. We know what she's like. She's also a very good pick on this Glasgow circuit as well, where she performed well in those UCI Worlds. Alexei Schnova, the American, 2 Americans in that top 5 as well. In third place, Catherine Furrer and Elise Gallios in 5th.
Indeed, and then we go down to the final 5. Lou Bates qualified in 6th. Liz Van Hooling, also there for the USA in 7th. 8th place for Tiffany Penner of Canada. Well, they were the... I'm just going to stick with those.
Gabby Guerrero was there in 10th, which will be good news for Nathan. His wife made it in.
Indeed. Kristin Kulczynski in 9th. Gabby Guerrero in 10th place there. So there's your top 10. So some popular riders in there. Thankfully, some of our tips.
Oh, dear.
And then here's the riders that sadly didn't qualify for the final round, but will have scored some good points ahead of next weekend.
Yeah, of course. Well, we've seen them there. Mylène Proust, the French woman there in 11th place. That's just where you don't want to finish. But as you say, the points will be helping her because she's going to get points, of course, towards that. And we've got, as we know, sadly, quite a lot of poorly riders this evening who aren't scoring any points either. So this might well balance itself out over the next couple of weekends as well.
It could do. I just like we're in like a discovery phase, aren't we? In terms of where we're taking Zwift racing. The Zwift Games is the first time we've ever done this. This format is very new. I like the way we're using different courses, disruptive courses, riders having to go out and do things differently, and that's what we've seen. We saw it yesterday in the men's, saw some great tactics, but I mean, not just a tactical play from Belfort today, but a dominant display. The big question is, can she carry it over? But the signs are that she can. When you look at what she's good at, it's riding for a very, very long time, very, very hard. I'm going to back her for the finale, but let's have a little listen to what Nathan and Carla have got, because that I've got to say, because that was nothing short of spectacular.
Just before we go to Nathan and Carla, one thing for you lot at home: if you're confident like Matt is that she's going to do it again on the Glasgow City Crit, put it in the comments below now, and we can then time check it and see whether you're right or wrong. So if you think she's going to do it, well, let us know whether you do think she's going to or not. In this third and final race, is she going to ride away from everyone for the third time on the night? Nathan, Carla, what do you think? Is she going to do it again?
I don't think she has. I don't think she has a choice. I think like she's done it over and over again, and she might be a little bit more cagier about it, but she just wants to break everybody, I would think. I mean, it looks very obvious to me that she does not want to sprint. She's risking it exactly where she needs to. Carla, I think that we're going to see the exact same thing from her from the get-go almost. It seems like the more time she has, the happier she is with it, and so she's going to just continue as hard as she possibly can to ride everybody off her wheel, is what it looks like to me.
Yeah, 100%. I think we'll be interested to see how the pack moves, if they will follow straight or they will let her go. I hope not, because it's the final.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, both times they've let her go, and I think both times it was like, there's still an opportunity. Now there's no more opportunities. This is the race. But this course lends to making it hard. It lends to making a race where you can kind of just continue to go. There's enough opportunity on here that a mountain biker, actually, coming from that kind of a background, this is exactly the kind of course you want. So anybody who wants a race just that's really hard and isn't going to come down to a sprint, they're almost happy that Emma's here, as long as they can get the better of her, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. I think as somebody that has a very high endurance will be able to really try to push things over the limit on this next race.
Yeah, I think a couple of riders I think Elise Gallegos, I think Krista Kolczynski. I'm looking perhaps, those are the two, Lou Bates as well, and maybe Gabby. I think those are the ones that are going to be like, okay, follow the Emma Belforth train, because we can go with something that's really hard. The riders that might not like this quite as much, Catherine Furr, Alexi Snover, Mika Soderstrom, Tiffany Penner, they're going to be a little bit more like, I want a pure all-out sprint, or at least the last 500-meter kick. So it's going to be interesting. If they make it difficult, I think it's going to break up a lot out here today. What do you think, Carla? They're going to break apart, or are they going to be able to keep it together like we saw yesterday in the men's race?
I think they will keep it together, and I really don't think Belfort will break away, but we'll see a breakaway eventually at the last kilometer before the race, especially on the section before the uphill towards the left of the champion sprint. That's a good place so you can really push and then go away, if you keep it up, of course.
It's a good point. It's a great point. Well, let's get back to the studio for some more looks forward to the next race.
Now we have that horrible moment of going through the 11 to 30, the riders who didn't make it. Let's have a little look, shall we, Matt, and see who we can pick out in there.
I think the worst one, isn't it? It's the first of the rest, isn't it? Number 11. That honour goes to Mylène Proust of France. But
90 points.
But I was going to say, but the flip side is she gets 90 points, which is only 10 points off the win in terms of points. So the points, as we were saying yesterday, if you're watching, delicately balanced, 100 points, 99 all the way down. So you can turn it around in one race, you really can. And then we have Jenny Egg, Minna Coinston, Lucy Collins, Vicky Whitelight, Eleanor Wiseman, Melissa Aitken, Anna Svardstrom, Gabriella Nordin, and then Emily Nyquist with 81 points in 20th.
And then 21st to that 30th place, Hao Zhang, who we saw up there pushing the pace, along with Charlotte Kolkloff, who also is, maybe in this second race, just paying a bit for those big efforts in that first race. She's out too, with fellow Brit Leonie Harper, Sarah Lundin, Merle Brunet, Natalie Stevenson, and Nevin Imogen Massey and then Maria Marb, who did that great effort getting back in the end, paying for that hard work, along with her countrywoman Pia Kummer, the two Germans in 29th and 30th, having made it through to the second race, which in itself is no mean feat, bearing in mind the quality. Yeah, definitely. The thing I like about the point structure here is the fact that every single place is worth fighting for. It's not because there's not big gaps. You know, the places that even like 25th, 24th place. That could, when you look at the points you could grab from then, and you look at the final race on the Alpe d'Huez, I mean, it could play out that these earlier sprints come into are more important than you think right now because of the way that the points are weighted. Right then, sprint 2 is over, race 2 is over, and now we head to race, the third race with our final 10 riders. Let's have a look, Jez, at what's in store in Glasgow. Well, it's just a cracking circuit. I love this circuit, not least because it's so true to life. It really brings back the feel of last year's UCI Road World Championships that were held there, of course. That Champions Sprint is the start and finish line, and the Clyde Kickr, of course, mirroring Montrose Street as it climbs away from Kelvin Grove Park. They take in 5 complete laps, but they are going to absolutely fly by, just as they did last night, Matt. This will go through very quickly. It was a fascinating tactical race last night for the men, and it did kind of stay together as well towards the finish. But the Clyde Kickr is tough, and it takes its toll lap by lap. Indeed, it's short, but it's not very sweet. And of course, we've got the power-ups as well. It's draft again, and any of you who watched our Polish national champion Kaminski win yesterday, I mean, it was an absolute tactical masterstroke, and I think Adam summed it up yesterday, didn't he, our resident expert. It's probably one of the best use of a power-up he's ever seen in any Zwift race. So there we go. I wonder what Nathan and Carla think of what's on offer on this course. What do you think, guys? Because I love this course. There's a little bit of everything on it. It's really hard to read, isn't it?
Clyde Kickr is definitely a place that we're going to be looking forward to. It is really hard to read as far as exactly where things are going to go because there are so many opportunities. The two main places out on course that have banners that people can kind of look for as like iconic spots about where the riders are at on course is going to be the Champions Sprint that you're looking at right here. And then the other spot is going to be that Clyde Kickr where it's an interesting kind of double kick actually. And if you ramp into that Clyde Kickr, you can actually cause the pack to be under a little bit more distress rather than just roll into it and wait for that kick. And sometimes people do that. I mean, Carla, there's a lot of opportunity out here. What are the main sections you're thinking of? Mainly Clyde Kickr, Champion Sprint? It also sounds like you're thinking about before the Champion Sprint, there's a little bump as well.
Yes, I think that before the Champion Sprint on that bump, just wait before that, maybe 200, 300 meters before. I think that will be a good opportunity. But I think the Clyde Kickr, if you don't target that climb correctly, you definitely can be dropped. So hopefully, I think this course is all about momentum is key.
Yeah, momentum absolutely is key. And that is one thing that could come back to bite some of the riders who try to make some breakaways, because you can gain so much, can't you, Carla, just from waiting and watching in ways that you use your watts correctly to use the pack. Because of all the ups and downs here, those downhills, if people are working on them, you don't have to do anything really at all. So a lot of the riders out here might be thinking that way, of follow, and gain as much as they can for a really, really decisive attack. You know, momentum, where key, absolutely. After the Clyde Kickr, Carla, I'm thinking that's the main place where you get those roller coasters.
That's right. I can't wait to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's head back on over to Jez and Matt as we're heading toward this final race, Glasgow Crit Course, out here for our first race in the Sprint Championship, race number 3.
Indeed. The big question is Emma Belforth going to do something similar? Can she do it 3 times in a row? We never would have seen it. I've never seen a back-to-back races a rider use the same style of just getting away. And also, I think what we've seen as well, and it's beautiful and really insightful that we get these picture-in-pictures to show us exactly the technique that the rider's using. Firstly, there's a confidence on a phone communicating. Could be with a coach. A lot of these riders will be on Discord, WhatsApp, talking to their coach who could be remote. Most of these riders do have a DS on board to give them that little bit of advice. But it was just then, right, put the phone down, go. and nobody could match her as well. And she'd already done it 25 minutes ago in the previous race. She's on fire. She is on fire. But in this race, only 10 finalists. Classy riders in this final as well. Surely they can't let her get away. They can't afford to, can they?
No.
Remember, $7,000 on the line for the win, 100 points towards the championships, 5,000, 3,000 for second and third. Can she do the triple?
But the thing is, Matt, nobody actually. You're right. I hadn't read it like that. She finished on her phone, put it there. It was almost as if she'd been told what to do.
Right.
We're not saying she had. She might not have been. She may have just literally been doing her shopping list and gone, I think I'm going to attack now. Shall I just go for it? And off she went. Absolutely incredible. In fact, I think we can see some replays of her in action. So smooth, powerful. Although, looking at the shot though, she's definitely working hard. I know she's using her phone, but you can see she's got a very...
When she lays the power down, it's quite a unique style. You talked about the difference between some of the riders that ride IRL or got like a higher cadence. But obviously, Belforth rides IRL. She's a good road rider, but an exceptionally good mountain biker. And quite often, mountain bikers use low velocity, high cadence. But she's almost like a runner. The way that she puts power through the bike. She's a qualified coach as well, so she knows what she's doing. But what she's mastered quite clearly is a very specific technique. As we look at the closing meters of the opening race, the loop-loop, that was the bunch sprint for second place. The fight for the rest of the place that would lead us into the next race. There's Belforth again, like a coiled spring, but surely she can't be allowed to go clear again. But there was nothing, should I say, that anybody could do about it.
Look at that, Matt. That was the moment she went as well. You think if you're ever going to react, but then I wonder whether the pack thought, don't be silly.
Who's going to chase?
Don't be... Well, yeah, but also they might be thinking, there's no way she can do this twice. Just let her go. There's no way she can do it twice. And that is exactly what she did. Wow. Right. Third race, locked and loaded. Should we go to Glasgow?
Let's do it.
Here we go. 10 riders remain. The 10th of those is Gabi Guerreiro, the Brazilian rider, Nathan's wife. Right next to him, he's been talking to us. He's got Gabi in the same room, which is why he's wearing his coat. She is in there. We know how well suited she is to this course as well, Hannah. We'll remember from the Zwift Grand Prix how strong she was on that Clyde Kickr. I think the Brazilian rider, Gabi Guerreiro, has got a really good chance here, hasn't she, Hannah?
She has, Jez, and if you remember back to that Zwift Grand Prix, she was a real protagonist on this course. And we take a look. This is the shortest of all three races this evening, 15.3 kilometers, 5 laps. Arguably it suits a rider who is a very good criterium rider, who is able to deal with that intensity of almost intervals on this type of circuit when you take a look at the parkour. But it certainly suits those climbers too, who are able to have that high power output over the top of the Clyde Kickr, but also continue that effort over the top, Jez, which is what we've seen in the past. And that's really what makes the difference, is over the top, where everyone is deep into the red, their heart rate is sort of reaching almost 200 beats per minute, and it's the rider who can try and capitalize on that, who, if they want to try and get away, a great opportunity to do so.
Yeah, lots of you, by the way, at home will have found that dashboard, the race dashboard, which is being mentioned at the bottom left of your screen now. If you haven't already, follow it for this, because it's a particularly interesting one with these 10 riders. She is doing it again. Emma Belforth is going for it, Hannah. Look at this. Yes, they've got to be wise to this. They cannot let her go again.
At least Lou Bates is wise to this move here from Belforth, because maybe on the second race they thought this is not going to happen. It's happened one time before. It can't happen second. But this third time, everyone is acute to the move. They're savvy now. They know what Belforth is capable of, and Bates is hugging and sucking the wheel of Belforth here.
Yeah, that is interesting. The Swedish mountain bike specialist. She has been just hooked onto by Lou Bates, but she's persisting. Now, this is the first time, of course, tonight we see this, as we see Lou Bates in our shot there, bottom left. It's the first time we've seen Emma Belforth get caught. She's done this in both races, and both times it's worked. Now, the interesting thing is, though, Hannah, she is now putting herself into difficulty by persisting like that. She almost, if I was her DS, I would be saying, now back off a bit. You've been caught once, back off a little bit. She's staying on the front, though.
Yeah, she is, and she's wanting to try and set the pace. You take a look at what she's putting out here on this climb, 7.2 watts per kilogram. You can just start to see Guerrero, the Brazilian rider, start to move forward, as does Kolczynski here. And, you know, for Belfort, she's happy up towards the front. You see, this is the first time that she's just dropped back, but she's able to use the wheels in front. Lots of draft power-ups just being dropped here over the top.
Yeah, let's not forget they're racing for that cash prize of being the sprint winner this evening after this third and final race. A lot on the cards for this field of 10 riders who are still all together. They've gone over the Clyde Kickr for the first time, heading back down towards the Champions Sprint. They have that second rise, though, before they come back onto the sort of fictitious George Square, as it is, and that's also a useful launch pad. It's not all about the Clyde Kickr. We heard Nathan and Carla mention how important the other climbs are, and she's going again. Look at this, she's going again, Hannah.
This is spectacular. Ride of the Zwift Games by far, and any rider will do and have a hard job in the next 2 rounds, next weekend and the weekend after, to try and better the rides of Emma Belfort. This is spectacular, stunning performance, whatever happens in race 3.
Well, it's worth pointing out the power-ups. There's one every time they go through the Champion Sprint, and they are the draft power-ups. And we could see Lou Bates and others there, in fact, quite a few riders in here now, using their draft power-ups just to recover from that attack there of Emma Belfort. But once again, now for the second time, she has been brought back into the fold. At some point, surely, Hannah, at some point, she's got to start paying for these efforts.
Start paying for it, but I guess for a rider like Belfort, if she's had that accumulation of fatigue and she's able to have recovered very well from each of these efforts and from each of these races so far, she's used the 15-minute gap between each of the races wisely, just keeping the legs turned over, try and get rid and flush as much of that lactate out of the legs as possible. But also, Jez, if she's on good form already, and let's not forget, this is one of, if not the biggest race we have ever seen on Zwift, and we've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of esports races here on Zwift, and so all of these riders have really made sure that they can get to peak form for the Zwift Games.
Yeah, we'll talk about levelling up. Emma Belfort here now is a big player in elite Zwift racing on account of everything she's done this evening, and don't we know it, because every time she's attacked this evening, Lou Bates is all over her like a rash. We bring back in Nathan and Carla here. Nathan, I can't believe what I'm seeing. Am I dreaming or something? I just cannot believe we're seeing this the third time over.
Well, I think this is, like we said, this is her opportunity. If this comes to a sprint, she's a light rider. Coming in at 50 kilograms, that is really light. She doesn't have a big sprint. There's no big watts. And on a downhill, the champion sprint, it's going to reward pure watts a lot more than watts per kilogram. And so because of that, her opportunity to win outright here is to do what we've seen from her time and time again. I think she's just being as smart as she possibly can. And the reality is, if she makes this hard enough, I think this can split. This course is hard. There are plenty of sections to make a split happen here. And to try and get a podium away or 5 riders away, that's going to be a much better chance than bringing 10 of the best sprinters in the world to the line with her. I think Belfort, this is her big chance. Carla, wouldn't you agree? I don't know. What do you think? I think Belfort, that's just what she needs to do to play her cards.
I totally agree with you. But the only thing I would think is whether she should be doing this now or she should be doing this halfway through, because, I mean, she's burning lots of matches.
Yeah, it's a good point. Now, can she put the other riders on the back foot by doing it and make them burn matches as well? It does look like she is using very specific sections of course. We are seeing as they head into the Clyde Kickr again. Now a little bit more chill this time around. Maybe perhaps this thing is in the legs. Maybe, well, now up in 8 watts per kilogram. So we are seeing some moves starting to be made. Let's get back in with the commentary here as we do see the riders starting to press on over the Clyde Kickr, second time through.
Yep, second time up the Clyde Kickr, and it's a sort of climb that's hard enough, isn't it, Hannah, that you almost can't help but lift up through the watts, and everyone does it, and before you know it, you're all knocking out 6 watts per kilo.
You have to, and you can see just how steep those gradients are, Jez, if you don't. raise the watts and you start to see those high watts per kilogram, you're not getting over the climb, and crucially, you're going to lose contact with the group. So you'll see it's always going to be hotly contested. We're always going to see those big watts, but I always think it's that accumulation over the top and afterwards of that intensity, and if riders are persistent over the top, that's really what breaks that elastic to those riders who really start to suffer. And right now we're not seeing any cracks from any of these riders currently. No. They're all very evenly matched on a race like this, but it's a very different proposition when you're racing with 10 riders here into this final, as opposed to when you've got 60, 70, 80 riders on this course.
Well, we can see Christian Kulczynski there. See her still with her draft power-up, still going. We need to remind ourselves, and I need to be reminded of this, it lasts for 40 seconds, which is a long time. Our men's winner on this course last night, Hannah, of course, he used only about 10 seconds of his 40 seconds draft power-up. But it took him straight through the pack, out the other side, and he won, and that was Mikhail Kaminski, I should say. 40 seconds is a long time to get that big boost in increased draft, isn't it?
It is, and when you get 5 of those draft power-ups on this course, when we've only seen 1 power-up in the previous race, 2 in the first race this evening, there's great opportunity to try and break away. If not using it to break away, just to give yourself a little bit of respite, Jez.
Yeah, we're getting towards the mid part of this race now. Things have calmed down. Remarkably, Emma Belforth hasn't attacked on this lap. So either she's feeling it or she's playing it a bit more cautiously. I think it was really interesting, as Carla Williams was saying to us there, if she could only just save a few of these attacks and put them into one big one with a lap to go or on that final lap, I could definitely see it working. She's obviously still got matches left to burn, or at least she did the last time she attacked. She's back on the front again now though, Hannah.
She is, and I have no doubt, quite like what Carla is saying, I have no doubt that now she's realised early on in this race that she wasn't going to be allowed off the front, she wasn't allowed any distance whatsoever. I have no doubt that she's saving and starting to plot and plan her next big move as she makes an acceleration round this right-hand corner. Immediately, it's the British rider Lou Bates who gets right onto the Swedish rider's wheel, and now Guerrera starts to react, as does Snova.
Oh, she is really ramping it up. Emma Belforth touching on 7 watts per kilo there, 8 watts per kilo now. She's not resisting. She must know, she'll be able to see that Lou Bates is coming up behind her. It's again the same 2 riders that are snuffing these moves out. Gabby Guerrera and Lou Bates, the Brazilian and the British rider, every single time. Now comes Kulczynski, using that draft power up to come up through them as well. Catherine Furrer doing likewise, dropping that power up just to latch onto the group. You never know, we might see a bit of separation in amongst our 10 here. Can they all get back on it together? As soon as they can though, they're going to be back into the Clyde Kickr. That's a hard point to be really laying it down before going into the climb.
Yeah, you're putting yourself under a little bit of risk if you're putting yourself into the red currently. Bates taking a hold of the front at the moment. There's Belforth on the wheel. Guerrera is really acute to all of the moves that Belforth has been making in this final race here in the Glasgow Crit Circuit. Bates leading on the front for Coalition Alpha.
Yep, it'll be the third time.
Together, though.
It is. It's all, and no one's being distanced at all. We've not seen anyone really look in difficulty so far, Hannah, despite the fact that this is now into the 3rd race. It's an awful lot in one evening. Here goes the Clyde Kickr again.
It's worth noting as well, when you take a look at the 10 riders here, there's several riders who we've mentioned time and time again. There's others who have really flown under the radar. Liz Van Hoeling, Tiffany Penner. They've really kept their powder dry, and again, I expect something that they're waiting, they're plotting for that right moment to try and launch something and at least get themselves up there into that final.
Yeah, you mentioned Liz Van Houweling. Of course, she is one of the most represented nation in this final. There are 4 American riders in here, aren't there, including Kulczynski. There is Elise Gallegos and Liz Van Houweling and Alexei Snova, who now rolls through to the front. So the US of A, very well represented in this final 10.
Yeah, they certainly are. And as you said before, we've got a real mix and combination of nationalities that have made it into this final 10. We go on board with Gallegos, the American, and again, looking very comfortable, nice smooth pedaling style, keeping that cadence, really nice rhythm here.
Nathan, Carla, when we go across the line this time, there's going to be 2 laps to go. I'm hoping and suspecting there's a lot more attacking yet to come. What do you foresee happening now that we have got the pack all together, all 10 riders?
I personally think that we're going to see a little bit more of what we just saw. The roll into the Clyde, make it difficult, then make the Clyde really difficult. If you're going to snap anything off of this pack, it has to be kind of a double or even triple kick. You have to continue to go and to go and to go. And perhaps, I mean, the fact that I saw Führer, the fact that I saw Bates, Belfort all toward the front on that kicker, I think they were anticipating that time to champion sprint was so difficult with Belfort pushing on that they were like, ooh, maybe we can get a little bit of wiggle room to work with here. Carla, what do you think? I think I think these next 2 laps, this is where we're really going to see the real attacks open up. We'll see 10 watts per kilogram plus, I think, a few times.
I agree, totally agree. I really think that, I don't know, but I have a feeling that we might see some spicy moments on the last lap. I think everybody's going to roll together for one more lap, and then they're going to go for it. What I'm very interested to see is whether these ladies will try to repeat what the gentleman last night did with that power up, or they will use it at the finish line.
Yeah, it's a big risk what Kaminsky pulled off there, and seeing it already happen once, to take that risk and almost with it anticipated, that's going to be absolutely insane if it works out. I think the ladies are going to be definitely privy to that and watching for it. Would they actually let something go? Will they even be able to respond to anything? That's going to be the big question here. Well, we're heading through that same section, and this time around, no press off the front, so it looks like you might be right, Carla. They are keeping it calm until perhaps the last lap, or maybe a lap and a half to go with the Clyde kicker just in front of them here. All together still, nobody able to split this up on this Glasgow crit course. Back to Hannah and Jed.
Don't tell me on that last lap, all of them are going to try and do a Kaminsky. Everyone starts freewheeling into that final left-hander to try and be the one that can get the little gap and lay off the back. It won't work in that respect. I wouldn't be surprised to see someone try it, though, because it was not just a combination of him getting the timing right. It was where he did it as well, where he deployed the power-up, and then the little ramp, the little drop-off into that left-hand corner as well. It was perfect timing. I can't see it happening twice in quite the same way, Hannah. Can you?
Well, you never know. I think for some of these riders, we said that for Emma Belforth in race 2, and well, what happened? She was able to open up that gap and win by, well, in the end, she came towards the finish with more than a minute's lead, an advantage. But you can feel now that it's tense, and they're waiting for their moment where they want to make their move, whether they want to make their move into the final few hundred meters and not go for a long range attack. Now we start to see Belforth again, another acceleration, and it's almost slow motion, isn't it? But yeah. Don't discount how much power she's putting out right now, Belforth, with that low cadence. Coming into the Clyde kicker for the penultimate time.
Oh, it's a raising of the effort, isn't it? In fact, you can see the cadence going up in Emma Belforth here. You can see the effort going up too. Power up being dropped at the back too. Looks like Mika Soderstrom, who's leading them up here. She's been strong up the Clyde kicker every time. And we know how good her final sprint is. We saw it at the end of the Jurassic Coast, of course. Leading through the line is going to be the first of the American riders, Alexi Snova, by the looks of it. And, well, her countrywomen are just behind her as well. The Americans right up to the front of that pack right now. Christine Kulczynski taking over. And all the time, Lou Bates, I think, Hannah, is riding quite nervously in here. Normally, I've noticed she's quite good at hiding and waiting, but she is very happy to lead the Brit.
She is. And I think there's so much at stake, Jez. Not just for the Zwift Games, but of course that huge prize purse for the win. I think for Lou Bates, she wants to make sure that she's on top of anything that might potentially go. Is now we see a move and an injection of pace, and it's Belforth time. Look at that power that she's laying down here. 450 watts, 8.9 watts per kilogram, the low cadence, and it's the riders behind with Lou Bates, Guerra. They've all got that draft power up here. They're going to bridge across, and oh, was that it's just great attack. But at the time, everyone has that draft power up. They're able to get back. Another match burnt.
Yes, it is. But she's not back in the fold just yet, Hannah. That 40 seconds of draft power up will run out fairly soon, and they're not quite on her yet. They are going to bring her back. But wow, is that the last time we can see her do that? Because that was a massive hit out, as you said.
That was
in
huge.
excess of 8 watts per kilo, and I would like to, well, you would think she can't keep doing that, but she's going to give it a go. I bet she does.
I have no surprise when you see the training that mountain bikers do, and with the intervals that they do. I have no doubt that she is on supreme form, and especially coming into the season soon. Once we get into this Zwift Games, and then afterwards the mountain bike season will start. Emma Belforth is on fire.
Absolutely. Well, all back together again. Just watching the back of that pack as well, just to see if there's any weakened legs. I don't think so. Mika Soderstrom now dropping back. I have her down, I think, well, not least because of her sprint result at the end, but I would have said this going into this anyway. She would be the best sprinter in this field. Different kind of sprinter, of course, to Lou Bates, who, as we know, likes to go long. Mika Soderstrom is quite happy to leave it quite late and come surging through. Should we go back to Nathan and Carla on this opening part, the opening meters of this final lap? Are they going to finish together, guys? And do we think there's one more big attack to come in Emma Belforth? She's right up at the front now.
Oh, I definitely think so. I think it's going to be an all-in move at a certain point here. Not sure exactly when, but I have a feeling she just has to make some sort of a move really soon here. But there has been a lot of riders keeping their powder dry, really smart here. Mika Soderstrom, Liz Van Houweling, Tiffany Penner, I would say Elise Gallegos, all of them very quiet so far. Toward the back, they've really been working on their Zwift craft, or their heart rates are through the roof. You can't always completely tell. It's one or the other. Sometimes it looks like they're struggling, and actually they're just playing really smart and can cover just about anything. Carla, I mean, this is anyone's game. To be honest, anyone could win still at this point, which you usually don't see coming into a top 10 like this.
That's right. I think we will see an attack, but for this to actually be succeeding, you really need to push, and you need to break the elastic band that keeps everybody together so you can break away and go. But I think many riders are very conservative at the back. So I can see Mika doing something as well anytime soon.
Yeah, definitely. Well, last time over the top of the Clyde Kickr, it's all going to pop off right here as Bates makes her way to the front. Back to you, Jez and Hannah.
The Clyde Kickr is so short but so steep. You just cannot help but work into it, and that's exactly what we're doing now. Anyone who wants to use the Clyde Kickr one last time to try and get some kind of separation, they've got to do it here. Alexis Snova, again, the American rider, rolling through to the front. She's strong on this climb, but Lou Bates is going to match that as best she can by the looks of it over the front. Once again, Mika Soderstrom coming up. After this point, it's just jaggedy downhill all the way back to the finish. Hannah, it's still together. This is going to come down to some big sprint, isn't it? I can see it happening.
I think so, unless someone wants to try and go over the top, because that was a lot of power, high watts over the top of the Clyde Kickr there for the final time. Belforth to the front with the draft power up. She's got Alexis Snova right behind her. Tiffany Penner's there, as is Lou Bates. And now we start to see a few moves go onto the right-hand side. Soderstrom has proven and shown that she's got the kick come the end when we saw her in that previous race, Jez.
Yeah, well, Alexis Snova has been trying. She was pitting pretty hard at the front now, but not getting any separation. We saw what could have been a mistake, or just the use of a power-up anyway, from Emma Belforth, using her power-up in the front. Now she's going off the front again, once again, in excess of 400 watts 445 watts as well. She's got a little bit of a gap. We can see her in shot bottom left as well. She's going to keep this going. Surely this is the last effort from this incredible woman who's won the opening 2 races tonight. And she is riding away by the looks of it, Hannah.
Look at the facial expressions. She means business. She's angry and she wants to try and take a 3rd victory, another big acceleration. And just take a look at the watts here, Jez. This is exceptional, but now it starts to open up from behind, and it's Lou Bates who is leading the charge, and she's got Kulczynski in the wheel.
What a ride by Emma Belfour. She's been caught by these two, Lou Bates and Christian Kulczynski, 2 of the very strongest riders in the field overall, in 1st and 2nd right now. You just wonder, this is the final left-hander, who has still got something from behind? And is Christian Kulczynski waiting? Here comes the push from behind. Mika Soderstrom moving up too. Watch out for Soderstrom, the Movistar rider coming through. Probably the best sprinter in here, looking like she's got it. Has she though? Lou Bates dropping back. Mika Soderstrom in the lead. Catherine Furrer in the wheel. Soderstrom's going to take it. Sweden. No, she's not. Oh, Kat, I think. Well, we're going to have to check that. She was right up alongside the Swiss woman, Catherine Furrer, on the line. Liz van Hurling was there too. Don't read too much into that screen on the right-hand side because we're going to be checking that result. That was really close at the finish after 5 laps of the Glasgow Crit Circuit in Scotland. What a worthy final round. What a series of races. I tell you what, the women have really brought it this evening. I think the men might look at that and learn a few things themselves too. There was some fantastic close tactical racing in there. And we will confirm the results for you as soon as we have them. So remember what I always say, don't necessarily read too much into that final screen on the right-hand side. But Matt, that was
great. It was great, wasn't it? What can you say? I mean, it was. We saw Emma Belfour do what she. The only thing she could do was try and break the elastic. She went with about 1,500 meters to go, and for a minute, I actually thought she'd snap the elastic, but there was just too much firepower behind, and she had to relent. But what a close sprint! It was down to the dying meters, wasn't it? I do believe we have the final result, the official result. There we go.
Wow. Well, the Swiss rider, Catherine Furrer, timing, you have to say, her sprint absolutely perfectly. I thought Mika Soderstrom had it. She went relatively late, but then surging up behind her. Liz van Houweling and Catherine Furrer with a brilliant ride to be our sprint champion, taking the $7,000 as well on the evening. What an incredible prize. What an incredible opportunity. She is our sprint winner.
And the Z1 Concept Bike as well.
Yes.
She can ride in games. And then $5,000 to Liz van Houweling. And those all-important points, 99 points or 100 points towards the Wahoo Championships to Catherine Furrer and Mika Soderstrom with $3,000 in her back pocket.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Not bad.
For an evening's racing, is it? And of course, 98 points. Then we have the rest of the top 10. Alexis Snova, Gabriela Guerra, great ride by the Brazilian there. Lou Bates, the first and the only British rider in the final in 6th. Elise Gallegos. Christian Kulczynski, after looking good in that final bend, couldn't quite match the sheer pace of Furrer and Houweling and the rest. Then Emma Belfour, 2 wins from 2 at the start, not good enough in the end, and then Tiffany Penner rounding out the top 10. So, but I mean, what a great race! Everybody, I mean, it was a mix of extreme caginess and all-out racing. There was not much in between, was there? Super tactical, then super aggressive, and then back to neutral again, but really entertaining.
I would be intrigued to know what would have happened if Emma Belfour wasn't in that race. Who would have been doing the attacking? Because although she's come 9th in there, I know what you mean when you said this, Matt. Not good enough. I know what you mean. But she was, once again, the animator of that race. She was the one who... How many times did she attack in that final race?
And everybody knew that. She's obviously got good legs, but on a circuit like that, although it's quite a hard climb, you saw hardly anybody got a gap on that climb. They finished in a cluster every time, and that just shows how evenly matched they were. If it was a longer climb, I think there might have been more differences, but that's the course we had. This set of races was called the Sprint Championships for a reason. Well, breathless stuff. Well-deserved winner. Let's have a listen to what Nathan and Carla think of that, guys. Nathan, a brilliant race. Belfour wore her heart on her sleeve, didn't she, in terms of what she had to do, but in the end, we have a Swiss winner.
Yeah, it was a close one. Belfour making the moves over and over again. You know, she was definitely the most aggressive rider on the day, but Sprint Championships, and those who played their cards absolutely perfectly ended up there in the finish. what's really interesting is that the riders who were able to time things as far as when their efforts were, that was the winning difference. We saw Mika on the back, we saw Catherine on the back, we saw Liz Van Houweling over and over again. Never, I don't think they were once actually further up than third or fourth wheel the entirety of that last race until they needed to be. Carla, smart racing for sure by those top three.
Definitely. I mean, on my notes I have Mika and Catherine. They have such a good racecraft, so they were very smart, and waiting paid off.
Yeah, 100% paid off. We saw the move from Belforth. Belforth actually, I think, baited out a couple of moves early that then benefited the rest of the riders actually that didn't jump on it, and that's the risk reward, isn't it? Because it's like you don't know if it's going to stick. You don't know if it's actually going to go. And you saw Blue Bates, Kristen Kolchinski, both of them jump on that. And then from there, they went over the top. They tried to hold off. That just ends up being a lead-out situation. And you've got Mika, Van Houweling, Furr, all coming over the top, who had waited until that final moment in the champion sprint to come up and over the top and take that down. I mean, really, really smart racing across the board. All the women, though, this is the best of the best. They couldn't shake each other. You know, that's one thing I definitely want to highlight here is that there wasn't a breakaway. It ended up being a 3-second gap between 10th and first place at the end of the day. All of them extremely powerful and showing what they got for the rest of these Zwift games.
That's right. It was brilliant racing. It was such a nice way to finish Sunday, full of very powerful women racing their hearts out.
100%. Well, it's been absolutely great watching this and analyzing with you, Carla, and good luck to Aoni and all of your racers for the rest of the Zwift games. Let's head back to the studio for some more post-race analysis.
And thank you, Carla. Right, well, for those of you watching at home, I'm pleased to say we are now joined remotely, of course, by our winner, Catherine Furr. Catherine, congratulations on your win. You are now the proud owner of a Golden Concept Z1 bike.
And $7,000.
And 7,000. Yeah, but and $7,000 as well. Not bad for an evening's work, was it?
Yeah, definitely. But there's much more behind than just this evening. But I guess you know.
Hey, tell us how you won that race. Well, we saw your dominant sprint, but the timing was brilliant. And what about the day as a whole, all three races? Tell us about your journey through those three races.
Well, it was kind of similar like last year World Championships, so I was expecting the worst. I expected hard races. Race 1 and 2 wasn't that hard, so I could really save up my energy. And also in race 3, I ended race 3 with good energy. I could react to every attack. I tried to stay behind. And, we had such great teamwork with Kristen. So it's just so much luck and great teamwork. Is just everything fitted perfectly.
Catherine, while you're speaking, I'm just thinking, we can tell what an elite athlete you are. You know how we can tell? You've just won all that money, you've just won the prize, you're having a live interview with us, but you're still doing your warm down, which is very impressive. Lots of riders would have coasted or sat still, but no, you're diligently doing your warm down. Really impressive. Now, just thinking about that though, you must be shooting for the overall now. Are you thinking about that overall prize?
I think I'll keep this for myself. But let's see. I will need to make my strategy as well. I was just looking forward to this race and then see. And yeah, you will know in a week.
Well, in a week, I have to say, and this might scare you or it might delight you, I don't know, Catherine, but you're going to be very easy to spot because you're going to be wearing our Golden Leaders jersey, of course, in the next race. Do you think that's going to change anything for you, wearing that jersey?
No, except I'm looking much better. I don't think so.
Yeah, well, we can see you in it, resplendent on your gold bike as well, your Z1 bike in the gold jersey. That's what you're going to look like next week, whether you like it or not. That's what you're going to look like.
Just firstly,
yeah, it's great.
just a quick one from me. Firstly, congratulations, a brilliant win, well timed. But just looking ahead to next week, it's one of the longest races that we've ever had on Zwift, especially at this level. What are you expecting? Are you expecting an aggressive race, a super tactical race? How do you think it's going to play out?
It's really difficult for me to say because I've actually never been participating in such a long Zwift race. I've always been choosing shorter ones, even though I know it's a strength of mine to go for longer ones as well. So, yeah, I think there will be lots of attacks, but I always look how we roll out of the start pen and try to react and make a plan when I see how I feel and when I see how the others are.
Thank you.
Catherine, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you in gold next week. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, you too. Bye. Cheers.
Our winner, Catherine Furrer. Well,
brilliant.
Nice to catch up with her.
Yes.
Shall we now start to think about what it's done to the overall championship standings, though, Matt? Let's have a little look at them. She is, of course, leading on 100 points. Liz Van Houweling, who was in second there, 99. Mika Soderstrom, Alexei Snova, all those Americans in that top 10 as well, let's not forget. Gabby Guerrero in 5th, Lou Bates in 6th, Elise Gallegos in 7th. Christian Kulczynski with, I think, in the end, the most ride-ons as well, just ahead of those other two there as well.
Indeed, and then there's the rest of your top 20. Millie Proust, Jenny Eck, Mina Koisten, Lucy Collins, Vicky Whitelaw, and the rest. But notice on the right-hand side, that's the total points. So I think there's 56 finishes actually today. So every finisher, importantly, has actually got quite a healthy points total to take through to next week. So I think it's fair to say, Jez, that every single one of our finishers today, and we'll be on the last screen in a couple of moments' time, is still in with a shout, especially when you look at the difference of the sorts of races that we're going to get on the final weekend at the Alpe d'Huez and next week in the Epic race.
Yeah, that epic race next week, quite different to anything we've seen this weekend. And of course, fingers crossed, we do hope we're going to be being joined by all those ladies who have been ill this evening. So I bet you'll all be watching. So get well soon, and we look forward to seeing you on that long race for the Epic Championship next weekend.
Indeed. Well, now it's for the moment of shame.
Oh, yeah.
Or not. Let's have a look at how our predictions have stacked up.
Yes, well, I think I might have done all right out of that prediction. I think we'll just let's come back to it. Let's come back to it.
That's what we know. This is already there we go. That's the golden bike. Look at that. The gold jersey. That's a lovely podium, isn't it? And nicely spread across the continents as well, isn't it?
And
Switzerland, America, and of course the Sweden as well. If I can get my Scandinavian countries right.
Well, the amazing thing is as well, we know, don't we, Matt, and all the community viewers will know, they'd have raced as hard as that with or without the money. But what a wonderful opportunity. The prize money has been put up by Wahoo for those riders to take away with them, and so richly deserved. Not least from this series of races this evening, but everything they do within the community of racing, within all the elite races as well. This is the biggest prize fund that's ever been seen at this level. And boy, is it deserved of these elite riders.
Oh, totally. They put on a real show for us, and I think for the inaugural games, it's nothing but a raging success so far. Now, I believe next up, it's the ride-on jerseys. Arguably, the most kind of favourite jersey, perhaps. The gold jersey is the one that everybody wants to win, but this was the cool jersey, if you ask me. And it's not really a big surprise because Kryska Kulczynski, 8th overall on the night, but one of the most popular riders out there, the United States Esports champion, and took the win by a hefty margin. There she is, in the lead, in the blue jersey with the big thumbs up on the back. Kryska Kulczynski, 257 ride-ons, and she'll be wearing that next week.
She won't be on the gold bike, though, that's for sure. Well, she might have designs.
We're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah. No, but maybe this is just indicative of her plan. It's gone well so far, but that's the jersey she'll be in. She will also be quite easy to pick out next week as well, because of course she won't be in her national champions jersey for a change.
She will be. Well, we do believe we've got the predictor up next, so let's have a look how we got on. We're supposed to be the experts.
Hey.
Jez, not too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah, yes, I've done well out of this. We're looking at the screen now. Gabby Guerrero, of course, was in that top 10. The rider who's missed out is Sandrine Etienne. And I just wonder, maybe on paper, this is her weakest round. We know how well she did on the Alpe d'Huez in the Zwift Grand Prix. She likes the longer races as well. Maybe she's going to ride into it.
All you need, I mean, I think things will change dramatically. I think there'll be one or two riders that we always see near the top. I think there's still room for a lot of movement. Great riding, or great prognosis-ing, if that's a thing, from Nathan, second place there. I'm pretty happy with fourth on the night with Krista Kulczynski, 93 points. I didn't think we all did too bad. And Hannah Walker there in fifth, who chose Vicky Whitelaw, sixth place for Mouldy at the moment. That is his nickname, John Mould, in sixth with Sandra and Etienne. So there we go. That was our predictors. I don't think we did too bad.
No. Well, there we go. It's well, let's see. My prediction can only go downhill from here because, as you know, Matt, I am absolutely terrible at predicting the winners. But Lou Bates is pretty good at riding, thankfully.
Right, shall we look ahead to next week?
Shall we? It's going to be a completely different kind of week from the weekend we've had. There's just the one race. So much to play with as well in that big, again, new loop as well, which takes in some pretty familiar roads as well. But yeah, the big epic race is going to be quite different. I think, again, potentially quite muted at first, but we don't know. Maybe Emma Belforth in this women's race next Sunday. She's going to attack, Matt.
Yeah, one big lap, 81 kilometres. A reminder, please do tune in next week for that. But get your snacks in. Get yourself comfy on the sofa, wherever you are, and get in. Well, I tell you what, it's been magnificent, hasn't it? It's been a magnificent opening weekend. We've commentated on 6 races, each one unique, each one super thrilling, but we're well underway. We've got the riders in the golden jersey, we've got the blue jersey sorted, and now we've got 2 big events to look forward to over the next couple of weeks.
And I hope you've all enjoyed it at home. If you've watched just the women's racing tonight, don't forget to go to our YouTube channel and watch the men's racing back from last night. Make sure you've seen both as well, because last night was quite different, but brilliant in the same way. Don't forget as well, the Zwift Games Community Series is also going on right now, and throughout the month of March. Matt and I are going to be taking part, so give us a ride on as you see us out there in some of those races. We'll chip in and have a go too, for what it's worth. And if you've been inspired by what you've seen, you can just go on and take on exactly the same races as you've seen our athletes tackle today, with some huge community race fields as well.
Indeed. Now, right now, until the end of Monday, you can race the Loop, which was our first race today and yesterday. Then next week, it's the Jurassic Coast, which was race 2 today. And then the week after that, the Glasgow Crit Circuit, which, of course, the final race today. Hopefully, you've picked up some tips by watching along the way and some tricks too. So go on, jump on your bike and give it a try, and it will be some of the best fun you can have on a bike without a shadow of a doubt.
If you miss any of the stages, by the way, you can also have a chance to make up any you've missed in the last 2 weeks of March, playing a bit of catch-up.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed it. We certainly have. It's been wonderful to have your company. Thanks for getting involved in the comments. Remember, if you do watch it on YouTube again, get involved. Make sure you tune in next week at exactly the same time. But for now, from me and Jez, from virtual Glasgow, it's good night and ride on. We'll see you soon.
See ya.